Bless you.
We're all set, Jesse.
Stan? Okay, we have everybody in, correct? All right, I'm calling to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting, March 1st, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. It is Girl Scout Week, which is March 7th through the 13th. So we have the South Gansett Girl Scouts with us this evening, and they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the South Gansett Girl Scouts and other Narragansett Girl Scouts from Girl Scout Troop 31. We have Ava Iraragori. Sorry about that pronunciation if it's not correct. Evelyn Gregg and Veronica Wathan. So girls, if you want to go ahead and lead the pledge, that'd be great.
They're on mute.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
To the flag
of the United States
States of America
and to
and
the
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the cookies as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
for your
You're
cookies.
welcome.
We look forward to that every year. So.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President, before we go through the agenda, I have a couple of motions I'd like to pull. Should I do it now or would you like me to wait?
Why don't we, sure, which motions?
So I'd like to pull the motion for to schedule a public hearing on the 3 student ordinance, and I'd like to pull motion 22 for the rules for boards and commissions at this time.
Okay. All right, got it. So we will not hear that motion during the public hearing portion,
Thank you.
and we'll skip 22. Okay, thank you. We have a few announcements and presentation. Oh, actually, sorry. Oh, no approval of minutes. Okay. A few announcements and presentations this evening. The first, like I said, it's Girl Scout Week, which is March 7th through the 13th. And we have a proclamation to commemorate that. So whereas Friday, March 12th, 2021 marks the 109th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the USA, founded by Juliette Gordon Lowe in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. And whereas through Girl Scouting, girls grow in courage, confidence, and character, and learn to make the world a better place. And whereas throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouts, the preeminent organization for girls, has inspired millions of girls and women with the highest ideals of character, conduct, and patriotism. And whereas Girl Scouting takes an active role in increasing the interest and skill levels of today's youth in math, science, and technology careers, and to fulfill our country's economic needs. And whereas through participation in Project Undercover, a council-wide community service project, every girl will learn that she can make a change for the better in her community. And whereas the Girl Scout cookie sale is the world's largest girl-led business, teaching financial literacy to girls of all ages. And whereas the Girl Scouts of Southeastern New England, which serves 4,800 girls in the Rhode Island area, will be celebrating 109 years of an American tradition, with more than 2.5 million Girl Scout members nationwide. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of Narragansett, do hereby proclaim the week of March 7th through the 13th, 2021, as Girl Scout Week in the Town of Narragansett, and urge our citizens to support Girl Scouts in their endeavors. Witness my hand in the official seal of the Town Council of the Town of Narragansett, County of Washington, State of Rhode Island, on this first day of March 2021. Congratulations and thank you. Next, we have a final report of the codification of 2012 Town Charter amendments. These are the remaining charter amendments from the ballot questions of 2012, I believe. And that is going to be presented by the town clerk, Terry Donovan. Terry, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. So just briefly, there were several questions that were approved by the voters in 2012 that would amend the charter following study and report by the Charter Review Commission, which was presented to the town council. Town council held several public hearings and work sessions. And after the approval by the voters, nothing really happened after that for one reason or another. So in October of 2020, I brought most of them. This was the only exception, but I brought most of them before the council just to make a record of what part of the charters was being changed, what sections were being amended by those approved questions. So there's no action required. There's no approval or vote required. It's just to get it on the record what the exact changes were as a result of that, that voter participation in 2012. This was the only remaining question, and this was maybe the more complicated one, certainly the lengthiest one. It had to do with creating a new Article 10 that addressed boards and commissions, specifically identifying them, making it more consistent in the way the terms of the committee members were established, allowing for alternate members on all the boards and committees, and setting some staggering for their terms so that there'd be some continuity with the boards and commissions throughout the years. So the only change from what the Charter Review Commission had originally proposed, the town council at that time in 2012 voted to change one thing. The committee had recommended that the article be amended to reflect that there shall be a limit of 2 consecutive terms, and then a member would have to sit out 2 years before they could continue on that board or be reappointed to that board. The town council changed that hiatus length to 1 term. So whether it's a 3-year term, 5-year term, depending on the particular board that's affected. So with that council vote to make that change, what's presented before you is the exact language as presented by the Charter Review Committee back in 2012. And then with that one change as voted on by the town council, all of which was approved by the voters in the November 2012 election. So the text that's attached is a copy of the ballot exactly the way it appeared for all of those questions as it went before the voters. And then the new text. The new text is in italics, and the altered text is stricken out. And that will put that to bed.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
9 years of work.
Happy to see that.
You can
Right,
actually
we're
tick it
ready
off
for
your
more.
list.
Thank
you.
you, Terry. Just a point of clarification, just for anyone who's curious about it. This does differ, or doesn't differ, but this is a different document than our town council rules for boards and commissions. So this is related to the charter. This will be added to the charter. And we also have town council rules, which sometimes will get into greater detail when it comes to boards and commissions, but do not conflict with the charter. Does that sound right, Terry, to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Terry, for that.
Welcome.
All right, next we have open forum, public comment. For anyone wishing to speak in open forum, please speak on items that are not on the agenda this evening. We'll also go through the agenda, and you can always speak on an item at that point. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we're going to try to be strict with that as we have a pretty packed agenda for tonight. So Dan, are there any members of the public with their hand up?
There is. First is Harvey Cataldo.
All right, Harvey, please state your full name and address.
He's on mute.
You just have to click to unmute yourself.
I'm not here to speak.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. Thanks, Harvey.
Next is Steve.
Hi, Steve. Please state your full name and address.
Hello, Steve Ferrandi, 44 Sylvan Road, Narragansett. Ed, can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's a little bit soft, but we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, council members. I have a comment I'd like to make on behalf of a lot of Eastwood Brook residents and neighborhoods, and actually a lot of neighborhood residents in other neighborhoods that have reached out to me about a comment made by one of the councilors, Patrick Murray. So this is a quote, and it states, Eastwood Brook is not coming back. It's a student community, not a family community. Those are the facts. When is this going to end? When neighborhood residents and specific neighborhoods get singled out as being, and actually I think it's a discriminatory remark by Mr. Murray. And you know, part of the problem is that he's sold a 6-bedroom home in our neighborhood of Eastwood several years ago, that when whoever bought it is doing nothing but renting it. So when is this madness going to end, that the residents will always have to be on the working side to try to push all this stuff over? Every time we try to make some remarks about the student rental issue and getting what we need to get down here, and even with this motion that was on, everything that happens, we have to listen to another motion now that seems to be pulled now about changing the 3 student already to the 4 already. Everything's a compromise. So when is the council is please going to start sticking up for the residents? When is it going to end? And you know what I also have to say? Whose neighborhood is next that this comment can be made to other neighborhoods that have? So that's all I have to say. And I just hope that we can change the dynamics here and understand that it's sorely needed. You had a 3-student ordinance that was fully vetted with the Providence Supreme Court, Rhode Island Supreme Court. So please stick up for the residents and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Harry Schofield.
Hi, Harry. Please state your full name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic Avenue. Well, I want to align myself with Steve's comments, but I also want to thank Susan for her decision tonight to remove the request for a workshop and the item on the boards and memberships. Obviously, you're all in receipt of my email. I've had tremendous public response to that email, but I am very much encouraged, Susan, by your willingness to pull it. And, you know, that suggests to me that you are listening, in fact, to the residents. And we all appreciate that. So I want to thank you for that. That shows an open-mindedness and a community spirit that gives me hope. And I think it gives everyone listening to this hope. So thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Dan, who's next?
Next is Dr. Alba.
Hi, Al. Please state your full name and address.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I want to thank Eva and the entire board as well for putting motion 20 to the Procasianti group with respect to having them come up with a new game plan. I think we have a gem of an area, Galilee, and I think we have multiple approaches to make that a beautiful showcase for Galilee. And I actually called the group up, and I spoke with the gentleman who actually was on the call with you guys at the Zoom meeting. He was very understanding, and he says he's going to actually reach out to the DEM too for some further direction. But he did like to hear what I said about possibly maybe a boutique hotel or you know, other possible avenues, maybe a maritime museum. But I know Deb echoed the benefit of, she said, yeah, a maritime museum might be great. I spoke with Heather too of South County. She's the director of South County Museum. So she's on board with that too. So I think if we you know, hopefully we can work as a team and make that a showcase. But thank you all I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Dan, anyone left?
Next is Paul Zonfrillo.
All right, Paul, please state your full name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. And I think the soundbite Mr. Ferrandi was referring to was this.
Yeah, the residents, Eastwood Look is not coming back. It is a student community. It's not a family community.
Not a family community. So we're giving up on Eastwood Look. As Steve said, whose neighborhood is next and when is this madness going to stop? I'm very happy that Ms. Bonanno pulled that motion. It was a horrible idea to put it on in the first place. And let's hope it never sees the light of day again on one of these agendas. People are furious that we're going to lose what we got 30 years. It took 30 years in the making to do. So I'm very happy that the agenda item gets pulled. Let's never see it again. Mr. Murray, I would like to see you, it's probably hoping against hope, that you come on to the side of the residents and not the big rental industry in this town, and come back on the side of the residents. So I hope you do that someday, but until then, I'm very happy that this was not on this agenda tonight. And I'm very happy, I would be very happy never to see it again. Thank you.
Paul, Dan, who do we have next?
Next is
Patrick
someone
Murray.
without a name, just numbers.
All right.
Hi, please state your full name and address.
John Uricchio, Uricchio, 24 Sylvan Road, Narragansett, and I agree totally with Steve Ferrandi. My family moved to Eastward Look a couple years ago because we're retiring there, and our family is going to live the rest of our lives there and pay taxes and so forth. And it's a beautiful neighborhood. So I disagree completely with what Mr. Murray said about Eastward Look on its way out. So I fully support what Steve Ferrandi said and the other gentleman. And it's just a beautiful area, and our, this is the citizens and the taxpayers and the people who give back to the communities based on what we do every single day. So I just want to make it be known that I fully support what Steve Ferrandi said and disagree totally with what Mr. Murray said, with all due respect. Thank you for everyone's service. Thank you.
Thank you. That looks like that's it, Dan?
It is.
Oh, actually, sorry. Looks like we have one more.
Dennis Lynch.
Hi, Dennis. Please state your full name and address. Right now, you're muted.
So, Dennis
We can hear you now.
Lynch, 22 Central Street. I'd like to also thank Susan for removing that public hearing proposal tonight. But I'd really like to see the council start to move to the next step here, which is enforcement. So I believe from your workshop, you had set September as a date when you were going to start to enforce. There's a lot of different aspects that are going to have to be considered in terms of resources, what we're going to do with the rental registration form to put greater onus on the landlords, and just a whole bunch of work. So I'd actually recommend a workshop dedicated to enforcement and implementation of these rules that we've been waiting so long to have. So let's not look backwards. I think it's a great step that we're moving towards September, but it's going to be here sooner than you think. And we need to now take all of the process steps to make sure that it works properly and benefits the residents. So please take that under consideration, and look forward to work being done on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Okay, Councilman President,
Yep, go ahead.
I'd like to speak open forum.
Yes,
Okay.
3 minutes,
Thank you.
please. First, full
3
name.
minutes, yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir. I'll keep it short. Okay, if I offended anybody with that statement, I'm not apologizing because Eastwood Look has been a long-term, students have been occupying there for years, and there are families living there, and it's unfortunate. And I'm in total agreement with these folks. But how do you turn it around? The only way you can turn it around if people get together, buy every house, start an association, and ban student rentals. Okay? You're not going to turn that ship around. The only thing with these 5, 6, 7, 8 bedroom houses, the 3, 4 unrelated, will be kicking in, and we'll be addressing this issue. The way the 3 student was rolled out was a little haphazard. I think it creates more student rentals. We agreed on the 4 several years ago, and I will not support a 4 student policy until we have accountability and enforcement. So Ever and I have been working with URI. We're hoping to get a package together, but it's not ready yet. So again, I'm just stating facts. You know, it's unfortunate. I had a student rental move in next to me. They totally rehabbed the house. They did a nice job. The students, it was 4 units, 4 bedrooms. Students came over, they introduced themselves. And I think they called the cops on me once. So for me being too noisy. So this is not over. I don't care what number of students you have, without enforcement, without accountability, then without enforcement, and address resource issues. We're going to keep, circling around with this subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Dan, who do we have next? Anyone who's already spoken in open forum, it's just you only get your 1 chance for open forum. I see a few names up there that have already spoken.
Yeah,
So,
next, Catherine Ciliberto, I believe, hasn't spoken.
all right. Catherine, please state your full name and address.
Catherine Ciliberto, 48 Earls Court. Patrick, as a good Republican, you know how you turn something around. You remove the profit motive. If you allow only 3 students, these people coming into town, raking in these big bucks with 5 and 6 students, they're just going to move on because it's all about how much money they can make. When they move on, those houses will open up for families. That's how it works. You should know that, Patrick. You obfuscate so much. This is what offends people, Patrick. I like you as a person, you know that, but you offend people with the things you say. You don't dismiss an entire neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I live on Earls Court. There are 10 rentals on my street. So it's really street by street that it's happening now. I sent you all an email. I told you that, 4 units, 4, 5, I think 7 people, they're on next door looking for annual rentals because their annual rentals, new people bought the places and they've told them to leave. This is a serious problem in this town, but you remove the profit motive, it won't be a problem anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Is that it, Dan?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that concludes open forum for this evening. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items from consent that any council members would like to remove from consent?
I'll move the motion if there's no,
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Eva. All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Trzynski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right, under new business, we have item number 5, which is a motion to approve the purchase of 1 700 megahertz DVR radio and accessories for the fire department from Motorola Solutions, Inc., pursuant to the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement in the total amount of $19,108.05. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion. Susan
And is there a
Cicilline
second?
Bonanno.
All right.
I'll
is there a
second.
Second by Eva. Any comments from the council? All right. None from the public. All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva,
Eva Drzinski, aye.
Deb,
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick.
Murray, aye.
Yes, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 6 is from the Parks and Rec Department. It's a motion to approve the 1-year seasonal agreement with a Cupcakery LLC to vend from a food truck at the town beach on Monday and Wednesday nights in the north lot from the 4th Monday of June through Labor Day from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., subject to state and local regulations. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Eva. Any questions or comments from the
Yeah,
council?
I have a question for Steve. This is an addition. It's not taking another business out. It's adding to the group that we have for the trucks.
Yes, this is My Rolling Cafe was one of the 6 food trucks that had a 3-year agreement, a 2-year agreement out of the 3-year contracts. And they backed out last year, at the end of last year. So they are taking this food truck will be taking the last year of the 3-year contract for 2021.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question as far as the parking for the beach and everything with the food trucks. Have we determined, are the food trucks gonna be in the south or north lot?
Right now, we're going to continue with them in the north lot. We think there's more room in the north lot because of where the movies are and where the concerts are. We think we can accommodate the food trucks in the north lot and accommodate more folks in the north lot and be a lot safer in that lot.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? All right, Dan, who do we have from the public?
We have Catherine Soliberto from the public.
All right, Catherine, please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. I would just like to know, is this an upcharge from last year? It was $1,300. Was that the fee for the food trucks last year? And also, you know, this vendor has to get a tulip policy. Those were at least $180 last time I checked. And frankly, I'm just wondering, how much can you make selling cupcakes? And this $1,300 seems like a lot to me, who I admit know nothing about food service or the selling of food, but it just seems like a lot of money. And you could, we have a food truck vendor license now. It's only $100 a year, and I realize that these people are getting to park in a beach parking lot, but I really just have a question about the fee that's being charged. And I didn't really think too much about it last year, but then when I saw cupcakes, you know, and like I said, I'm wondering how much can you make selling cupcakes? And we're charging them $1,300. It's just my comment. Steve can respond. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Steve, has the price changed from last year? I wasn't sure.
Well, it's a good question, but these are 3-year contracts, and so they've gone up $50 each year. And so we actually have a waiting list for food trucks. And so these folks, before they even go before you, we actually talk to them, and so yeah, they're all readily available and want to participate. And because of obviously last year was a little bit different, 2020 with COVID, but they get a lot of business at the beach, and they're all willing and able, and they have no problem providing the $1,300 for the season. And again, with the movie nights and concerts on Monday nights, they generate enough money to be able to make it worthwhile to them. Obviously, it's all weather driven too.
And Steve, don't you try to pick?
As far as the liability insurance, everyone that does business, whether it's the surf shops, the yoga shop, the Dell's Lemonade, the food concession, anyone that's doing business with the town of Narragansett, they all have to provide liability insurance naming the town of Narragansett as additionally insured. So that's anyone doing business, and the food trucks do the same thing.
Thanks, Steve.
And Steve, just to follow up, don't you try to get a variety of vendors, like you have like some soups and some desserts, and you kind of mix it up every year so it's not all of the same kind of foods down there?
Yeah, that's another good question. We try to do that. Sometimes it doesn't work out this year. I believe we have 2 food and 2 dessert trucks this year. So that's typically a good mix.
Yeah, that's still mixed up enough though, I think. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
I love cupcakes. I'll be down there.
It is 8 o'clock. We just have to bounce to our public hearing section real quick.
Want to vote on this? We have like a minute.
Well, we have someone for public comment, so it's going to take a little bit more time. If you hang on for public comment, we'll get right to you. It's just a quick scheduling motion for the public hearing. So we have a motion to reschedule a public hearing on a petition from St. Thomas More Church and St. Veronica Chapel for the partial road abandonment of a portion of Joy Lane. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to reschedule. Do we have a date?
We do. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so this was actually a request from the applicant's attorney. They just need more time. And the date to reschedule would be April 19th of this year. So any questions about this from the council? Okay, all right. So all in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. The other public hearing item was removed or pulled. So we'll go back to our motion, which is number 6. It looks like we have Ben waiting to speak. Ben, please state your full name and address.
I did not want to speak. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So any last thoughts on this from the council? All right. All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
And Patrick?
Aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 7 is a motion to approve the request from St. Thomas More Parish for their annual Good Friday Walk Stations of the Cross to be held on Friday, April 2nd, 2020, subject to state and local regulations. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion. Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Eva. This comes from Parks and Rec. So Steve, do you have any information on this for us?
So this is an annual walk. It's Friday, April 2nd, and again, it's COVID restricted if there's any concerns. So police and fire have both reviewed this as they do every year, and we're good to go as long as you approve it.
All right, thanks, Steve. Any questions from the council? All right, all in favor? Start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski,
Oh, sorry.
aye.
Terry has something.
Sorry, just a correction. I believe Steve sent this correction to me, but I neglected to make the change in this motion. It should be 2021, obviously.
Right.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, 2021. Do we need to make an amendment to the motion? No? Okay, just.
We're good. That was just as scriven as ever.
Okay.
Thank
All right, thank you. Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Aye, motion approved 5-0. Number 8 is a motion to approve the request from the Rhode Island State Police for their annual 5K foot pursuit road race to be held on Saturday, October 16th, 2021, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., subject to approval of state and local regulations. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion. Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
Second by Eva. Any questions or comments from the council? All right. Okay, all in favor?
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 9 is from the engineering department. It's a motion to accept a grant in the amount of $131,250 to modify existing manhole structures and reinforce drain structures at the Scarborough wastewater treatment facility, and authorize the town manager to sign the same after review by the town solicitor. Is there a motion?
Move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eva. Any questions from the council? Any questions for John or for Jim?
Maybe just thank them for getting this grant.
Yeah. Thank you as usual for that. It looks like the town would be on the hook for the remainder. So the total is $175,000. So the town would be paying $43,750. The rest is covered by the grant. So thank you, John, for that work. All right, so let's go ahead and take the vote. Start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva.
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb.
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 10 is a motion to approve revision of the job description for engineering department wastewater division maintenance supervisor to reflect current position duties and responsibilities. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eva. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay. All in favor,
Looks
starting
like
with
you did
Susan.
a nice job on the description.
Yeah, it was a great job description.
All right, we'll take the vote. We'll start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva.
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb.
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 11 is a motion to approve the filling of one vacancy, water superintendent within the water division. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion. Susan
All right.
Cicilline Bonanno.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Eva. Any questions or comments? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Susan, we'll start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva.
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb.
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 12 is a motion to approve the filling of one vacancy within the engineering division due to anticipated resignation. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Eva. Any questions or comments? Okay. We'll start with you, Susan. All in favor?
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva.
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb.
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 13 is a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the emergency removal and reinstallation of one pump at the Oida Pump Station by Hart Engineering Corporation in the amount of $9,000. The emergency evaluation and repair of the pump in the amount of $7,990 by Associated Electromechanics, and the purchase of replacement parts in the amount of $19,092.80 from Aqua Solutions Incorporated. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
All right,
Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Eva. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay. All in favor? Susan?
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopek, aye.
And Patrick.
Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 14 is a motion to approve change order number 1 to RP Iannucci, Iannuccello and Sons for emergency repairs to the sewer force main and the Stanton Avenue pump station in the amount of $23,903.81. Is Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion, Susan Cicilline Banano.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
I
All right,
just, I know it explains the change order, but can you just talk to us a little bit about what happened with the change order on Stanton Ave for that repair?
Yes, Council Member Cicely Bonanno. We didn't really know what the extent of repairs or what was going to be necessary to repair this when it happened. It was an emergency repair. Wastewater crew was out one morning in December, found a leak in the ground, and it had to be fixed. So the problem was with this is a difficult location. It's 15 feet deep. It's right off of Sand Hill Cove. It was the middle of winter. So we dug down, we got it exposed. They had about a week's worth of work in the original budget to get in and, you know, dig for 2 days, fix it for 1 day, and then backfill for 2 days. And it took them almost 3 weeks to do. So the original budget was around $55,000, and we had to have extra. Once we got it exposed, we understood what the repair needed to be, and came up with a plan to make the repair. They made the repair, and they got out of the hole and backfilled. They also had a little difficulty. This happened right over the Christmas where the winter storm came in, and we had them secure the site a little bit better as well.
So, all right, great. So it's all repaired now. We're good and all caught up now.
Yeah, this is the only change order on this contract.
Okay, thank you, John.
Sorry, I was muted.
I was like, what happened? Went like really quiet.
Thank you, John, for that explanation. Any questions from the council additional to that? Okay, let's go ahead and take the vote. We'll start with you, Susan.
Susan Cicilline Banano, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 15 is from the IT department. It is a motion to approve the purchase of Asset Essentials Enterprise from Dude Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $12,253.91. Is there a motion? Everyone like that company name? Is that what everyone's smiling about? Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Any questions or comments from the council? Deb, you're muted.
Yeah, I got it. I'm sorry. I have a question. In the summary, there's a statement, this agenda is for use of the system until July 2021 to match our budget cycle and implementation. So I just wanted to understand, is the money that we're spending now just, will we have to redo this after June 30th?
We will have to do it after June 30th. This covers the bulk of this money is implementation and converting 2 of our systems. And then they're charging us 1 month of usage for the next 3 months. So they actually gave us a pretty decent deal.
Okay.
It could have been several $1,000s more. And then we'll pick up again for the next full year in July.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood it. Thank you.
All right. And Dan, like you said, this is actually going to be replacing multiple other systems, right?
It is, yes. One at wastewater, their maintenance program there, and another at fleet maintenance called ShopKey. It's an older system we've got that no longer works well with Windows 10. Bringing right up to current technology. Great system. We demoed several packages, and this one was by far the best.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I bet it had the best name too, right?
It did.
That was really why you went with it. We know. Okay. All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Banano, aye.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 16 is from the police department. It's a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in the town of Narragansett in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances to restrict parking on Nichols Ave.
I'll move the motion.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So I think we're all pretty clear on this one. We have the explanation from Chief Corrigan last meeting. So does anyone have any additional thoughts or comments on this?
No, I'm just glad that we're looking at Nicholas with no parking on there at all. Happy about that.
Great. Yep. Okay, so there are no hands up to speak. So why don't we go right to the vote? And we'll start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva,
Ava Drushinsky, aye.
Deb,
Deb Kopeck, aye.
Patrick,
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 17 is from the town clerk. It's a motion to review the request of Galilee Beach Club to allow off-season catered events utilizing the caterer's Class P liquor license at its Class D licensed premises, 220 Sand Hill Cove Road, and direct staff accordingly. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion, Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Eva. Okay, so this came through the town clerk's office. It's a pretty good description in there. And I think hopefully we have the applicant or the attorney here to speak tonight. Terry, could you give us a little bit more info on this?
Yes, so Class B, I'm sorry, Galilee Beach Club holds a Class D license, D as in dog, and that is for a full liquor license for a club. So that is, the club is identified as having members, and they can serve food and alcohol to their members and the members' guests. And the license holder has asked about holding catered events there, especially during the off season, but sometimes during the summer season as well, where the caterer would be using their Class P, P as in pot, Class P license. That's a caterer's liquor license, which is a portable license. Those licenses are not issued by the local licensing authority, being the town council in Narragansett's case. Those licenses are issued by the Department of Business Regulation. So the question is, this is a licensed premises with a Class D license as granted by the Narragansett Town Council with, very specific restrictions and defined areas. And their request is about allowing catered events there with service of alcohol being accomplished by the caterer's bartender using the caterer's license. So, it's a different request than what the council has received before. So the applicant has asked to address the council directly to see if you had any questions or concerns about that, but also so they could explain what their intentions are.
Can I just, is this a motion? Are we taking action on this tonight, or is this just a point of information because it's a new license, correct?
Well, no. Galilee Beach Club has held a Class D license for many years. What's different is the activity that would take place at that premises, that licensed premises, under the umbrella of a different liquor license, which would be the caterer's liquor license. So it wouldn't change the Class D license at all. It would just, I think, it's not unusual for some of these clubs. We have the Metatuxet and Petaquamsket, the Dunes Club. There's several club licenses in Narragansett, but I think most of their operations are in-house. If they do have a caterer for a special event coming in with their bartender, it's a kind of an intermittent and not a regular event that occurs at that location. I think what this license holder is requesting is something that's done on a more frequent and recurring basis.
So Terry, I just want to understand, I'm sorry. So it's a private club, and so they want a license, not for the members that come to the club, for visitors as well, is that? So if I'm a member there and I want to have a wedding, something like that?
Well, the way I understand it, normally, if you were a member of any of the clubs, if you were a member and you wanted to have an event at the club to which you belong. You as the member, you can arrange the event, you can have guests. The guests are there because of the member and connected to the member. This, I think, would be kind of renting out the facility in the off season to non-members. It wouldn't be sponsored by a member. It would be more of a public event, probably still, by invitation only, but not tied to the membership the way Class D events usually are.
Okay, yeah, this is different. I'm kind of out of my, on my range with the license. All right, so, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can keep going, Susan.
No, I'm just trying to make sense of it. I mean, it seems to be, is there any opportunity for the private club? Like, have they talked about this, or is this just coming to us to agree for the license for the club without their blessing as far as the club? Because it's a private club, right? I don't know. I think it's, I'm wondering why we're in the middle of that. Like, why are we making?
Because the town council is the local licensing authority that issues the liquor licenses, the Class D liquor licenses. And that liquor license has conditions and restrictions and are specific to the premises. When someone's looking to expand their licensed premises, or they're looking to have entertainment, or they're looking to add on to the area where they serve alcohol, they have to come back before the town council for a public hearing and for permission to do that. The abutters are notified, there's an advertisement run. So that's the local licensing authority's control over that class of license. The Class P is not issued by the local licensing authority. It's issued by the State Department of Business Regulation, and it's more itinerant. Caterers, they can cater a private party at a home or at a rented hall, or different facilities, banquets, and they bring their licensed bartender with them. So that might be the kind of thing that you might see, for instance, at the North Beach Clubhouse or at the Towers, where there is not a license already associated with that premises.
Okay.
And that's what makes this unique.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for walking me through that. I appreciate it.
So,
Terry.
yes,
I have a question. Is this in violation of any state laws?
not that I'm aware of, but I
All right,
I
I'm
just don't
sad.
know.
I'm good. I'm good.
Terry,
with it.
so the club is not asking the town for a license. They have their club license. They're asking
Correct.
for the town to allow them to utilize the license that the caterer brings with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's different.
So but do we have a formal mechanism to allow that? Like, do we have some sort of document that allows that officially to be done? Is this
No.
just the council saying, okay, you could do that?
We do not have a document. You do not have a document or specific regulations. It's new to Narragansett.
Okay. My other question is, so you said that DBR is the body that issues the Class P licenses?
Correct.
So the Galilee Beach Club could go to DBR to apply for that, for a caterer's license of their own, for when they have these events, so they would just have the license.
I thought I read something that said you couldn't have two different licenses.
What's Mark Davis have to say? Check with the attorney.
Good evening. They already have a license, so there'd be no need to go apply for a Class P license, which, as Terry says, allows you to move from one venue to another. They have a Class D license, so if they wanted to have an event, they have an event, but there's conditions, as Terry said. So the concern for the town is we have rules in place for the issuance of the Class D license. Very specific restrictions on who goes in, who uses it, what time frame it can be used, those sorts of things. And as Terry said, if they want to modify that, they must come before the town council. And then for the venues like the North Beach Club or the Towers, where frequently caterers use that facility, there's protocols that the state mandates when they issue these licenses once a year. And that is anybody touching the alcohol must be tip certified. There must be certain insurance in place, certain trainings required. There are rules outlined. The problem here is if they go into a facility such as the Galilee Club, where we have issued a license, and there's a problem with that caterer, we will be sucked into that lawsuit. And I'm not sure who the insurance would be issued to if they went in there under their Class P. Is it naming the Galilee Club? Is it naming the town? The town is in the middle of something they shouldn't be in the middle of, in my opinion. I think if you wanted to make an exception every now and then, you could do it, but it's really going to put an administrative burden on, I would imagine, Terry and her staff, because there has to be some accountability from the Galilee Club and probably the caterer as well. How often it's being done, the dates it's being done, who's attending. Is the Galilee Club serving at that time to their patrons? Does the Galilee Club have any of their staff? Is the insurance in place? Who's named on the insurance? Proof of the tip certification? All of the things that the Class P requires would then need to be monitored in a location that's already licensed. So it can be done. Is it illegal? It's not illegal. Does it set the town up for additional liability exposure? Absolutely. Can it be covered off? Yes. But there's going to be administrative burden there on, I'll say Jim, but it'll probably work its way down to Terry's office. I just don't see an upside for the town. The Galilee Club has a liquor license. They could serve the food, or they could leave their, well, I mean, it's got to be, as Terry said, it's got to be a member or somebody sponsored by the member. They have a liquor license. It's not meant to be a venue for catering events throughout the year. The people living around there, have they had a chance to, if you were to agree to that, the neighbors, they should have input at a public hearing as to what they think about living next to an event space. So there's a lot of considerations. It's not as, well, you heard Terry's explanation to Susan. It's not a simple, clear cut. It gets complicated because we have a facility that has a liquor license that's governed by a set of rules. We have the state issuing another license to the caterer. I spoke to DBR myself. There's no requirement that we allow the Galilee Club to be able to do it. There's no prohibition on it, with the exception of if it were to be a regular occurrence, I think it would be problematic. If it was going to be occasional, intermittent, as Terry said, you can probably work around it, but it's going to be administratively burdensome.
Mark, it sounds like the liability is something we don't want to get involved in. So did DBR, could they settle it, or could they go up there and work it out with them in some way? Or no?
They didn't want to make a decision because they're really the appellant body. So if the town council tonight chooses not to allow this activity, then the caterer would likely appeal it to DBR, and then DBR is going to sit there as the appellate. So they weren't going to give some firm answers. They gave some guidance. We had some talking points. They pointed out, some of the concerns that the town, already knew and identified. So no, they wouldn't come up, Susan, with a firm answer because they're going to be
But if it's,
Is
if
the-
it's denied, then they're in the middle of the appeal on it.
Yes, they'll be hearing it.
Thank you.
Mark, so every other Class D license that we've issued in town, that's just pretty much a straight Class D. We have no special allowances that we've given to certain places. Like, so is the Dunes Club a Class D?
Yes, it is.
Right, so they do quite a few events. Are those always like sponsored by a member? or
Yes.
something? Okay. Okay.
And so, there's a members log that they're required to maintain, who's present, who's in attendance. We have 6 club licenses altogether.
We do have the attorney on, so I know that he would be able to kind of explain what they're trying to do, maybe give us shed a little bit more light on it. So Dan, could you move him over?
Kevin Daly.
Hey Kevin, how you doing?
Just promoted him to panelist to be right in.
All right. Kevin, if you could just introduce yourself for us real quick.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the Town Council. I'm Kevin Daly from Daly and Norton in Warwick, Rhode Island, and I represent the Galilee Beach Club. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you this evening. And of course, I've been listening to the discourse and Mark's comments. And wanted to just give you folks a little background in terms of how the club has been operating over the course of a number of years, and how things have changed in the past year, and what we're looking to do. The one clarification I would like to make is that the club for many years, I would say the better part of 20 years, has been operated under a structure where they have a concessionaire agreement with a caterer, a private caterer, in which the caterer provides food and beverage service to the members of the club during the club season, during the summer season, if you will, under the club's Class D as in dog license that the club has had for years and years. And then particularly with the last caterer that was in place for a good 8 years, he also had the exclusive right to conduct what I'm going to call off-season events. You can conduct them during the season, but they're primarily during the off-season. And as Ms. Bonanno pointed out, they're weddings and retirement parties and the like. And under that contract, the caterer, his name is Kevin Malonzi of Malonzi Fine Catering out of West Warwick, had the exclusive right to provide food and beverage for those events. And he would do that under his P as in pot license. That actually has been going on for quite some time. I've been representing the club for probably 6 or 7 years. I'm to understand it began well prior to that, and also with a caterer that was in place even before him. The number of events we're not looking to change the number of events. If I were to venture a guess, I would say that there are perhaps 5 or 6 events that take place during the sort of spring shoulder of the season, April, May, beginning of June timeframe, and then perhaps the same number of events on the fall shoulder of the season, September, October, November timeframe. And so again, that's been going on for a long, long time. This past May of 2020, when COVID hit, the club and Mr. Malonzi mutually terminated their contract. And so going forward, the summer of 2020, the club handled food and beverage in-house. Their general manager provided the food and beverage, or sort of managed the food and beverage. And now the club is trying to assess what direction it wants to go in going forward with these, what I'm calling off-season events. And the options on the table are either A, continue to do those off-season events in-house. And we had communicated with Terry during August on that issue, doing that under the Class D as in dog license, or in the alternative, having a caterer similar to Mr. Malanzi come in and do those events under the Class P license as in pot. The other complication is that under Mr. Malanzi's termination contract, he had already had existing contracts with outside people, brides and grooms for weddings and the like, to perform food and beverage. And so he has the right under our termination agreement to continue to provide food and beverage under those contracts. So we want to make sure that he's able to do that. There's a handful of them. There's not a lot. So that's one piece. But then the other piece is, can the club engage another caterer if it chooses to go in that direction, and have that caterer do those off-season events under the Class P license? From my perspective, as I think everyone has pointed out, it's not illegal. But of course, I recognize Mark's points, and they're good points about ensuring that the town doesn't have exposure, and, of course, addressing any of the concerns that the town has if it were to sort of sanction that going forward. And the club, of course, would be ready, willing, and able to address and discuss all of those concerns.
All right, thank you, Kevin. We did lose a couple of council members as well as our town manager due to the power, a power outage in the north end. I do want to have a little bit more to this discussion. We do have 3 council members right now. And we have you here, Kevin, so we might as well have the discussion. But if they're not able to get back on in the next 5 or 10 minutes, we'll do a vote to see if we want to adjourn or not tonight. But I do have a couple of questions,
Of course.
Kevin, and then maybe Mark, if you could also jump in with your opinion. So the club has been using the Class P caterers, or the caterers with Class P licenses already, and they've done that in the past.
For years, yes.
It's not, so it's not illegal, but it hasn't been sanctioned by the town, right?
That piece is a little gray, and it's before my time as the beach club's attorney. I'm told by people that it was run by the town. To say that I can cite chapter and verse who spoke to who, I would be telling you tales if I were to say that. But I have been told that when this began some time ago, that it was, I don't want to say sanctioned officially by the town council, but it was run by someone, and it was represented that it was okay to do. And again, I think the idea here is that the D license, covers the summer season. And again, if the club were to go in the direction of keeping that in-house, my view is they could do that with conditions as long as they met the conditions. The P license, as I think Mark pointed out, is sort of a traveling license. It's issued to the caterer, and the caterer is permitted to use it to provide food and beverage in transient locations. So it's not tied to the Galilee Beach Club premise per se. In Mr. Malanzi's case, my view is his license, the principal place of his license is his restaurant in West Warwick. But then, he might cater an event in Providence or cater an event in Newport and so forth and so on. And that Class P license moves around in that way. And so I think that's how it was envisioned that would work with these off-season events in the past.
Okay, thank you. Mark, so what they've been doing in the past, is that you know, whether, so someone said it was okay or not, is that in violation of the license they've been given by the town? Sorry, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I went off, went to mute. It is a little troubling that the town has been exposed, because I can assure you, Terry wasn't aware of it. And I'm not sure if anybody else in town was aware of it. And without that, I would be surprised if the town was adequately covered by insurance. So that is definitely problematic. The other thing one must look at is, as we always talk about, is, you know, can you justify it in this particular case if you put all the safeguards in place? And if you do, where does that lead you? And I think Terry had indicated there's a number of other clubs. And does the town now want to set this precedent, even though Kevin's identified that this is a practice that's been going on with the Metatuxet Club or the others that are slow in the winter, or if not closed in the winter, for a source of revenue. So anyone who's ever rented the North Beach Club like I have know that you deal with Steve Wright's group. There's strict insurance requirements. There's strict deadlines. There's logs that need to be kept and turned in. There's a whole set of rules. And that's not happening clearly at the Galilee Club. And like I said, there's not a lot of upside to the town. That at the North Beach Club, for example, the town gets some rent. In this particular case, we'd have an administrative burden, we'd have liability exposure, and I don't see any upside to it. So that's kind of my take on it.
All right, thanks, Mark. Deb and Eva, do you have any questions for Kevin while he's here?
I don't have any questions for Kevin, no, but I'm a little concerned.
No question.
Do you have any questions for Mark or Terry?
No, I think all my questions were answered, all the comments. Thank you.
Okay.
I have
thanks.
something, Jesse.
Yep.
So the general manager, David Field, and I have been communicating back and forth about this literally for several years, because they have had questions about whether or not this is an allowable situation. And I've corresponded with him about, this is a local licensing authority issue. You need to bring exactly what you have in mind before the council and let them hear that and make a determination about whether or not that fits in with your class license. So it's kind of going back and forth. I've been involved in the renewal of the town's liquor licenses for 10 years. I don't recall it ever coming before the council as part of the renewal process that, a question or a condition hasn't been raised about the use of a Class P on the premises at that time, and no separate hearing per se. But they have been asking about it. They have been questioning whether or not, the council had an issue with it or a problem. And, my bottom line has always been, it's not my decision. It's the local licensing authority's decision. So bring your case before the council and, see if there's any issue that they need to be concerned with, or it's completely permissible. So, and the final thing that I would say is that the club went before the zoning board in 2012 with regard to expansion of its service, its licensed premise service area. And there were statements on the record at that time that, there would be service to members only, members and their guests only. So if the council is inclined to allow something other than that kind of an operation, I would just suggest that the zoning or the planning board be consulted to make sure that the council isn't considering or granting something that would be contrary to a condition that's already been imposed by another board.
I'm back. I don't know, was I the only one that got bumped off?
No.
Patrick did and Jim as well.
I did too.
I'm actually back on my phone. I'm not on my computer, but I was listening to Terry, so I'm back. It was the lawyer was speaking when we got bumped out. Did he finish?
No, I missed everything. At least I thought I was gonna get off the hook on agenda 20 myself, but I guess I got power back.
It was close. It was close. We did have a conversation. So Mr. Daly kind of gave us a little bit of the history of the club and kind of what they've been doing. They have actually.
Briefly, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to do here?
So what they're trying to do
They
is.
got a caterer who has a liquor license, and go ahead. But they have a liquor license. Will have an ability to serve liquor, correct?
They would like the town to give them permission to allow their caterers who are licensed with P licenses
I'm fine.
to use them to host events where there are non-members, not member sanctioned events.
Right.
So that's what they're looking to do.
Yes,
No other clubs in town have that ability at the moment. So this would be the first. And Galilee has actually been doing this over the years, it turns out. And the town may or may not have been aware at some point. It sounds like Terry wasn't, and Mark wasn't, right?
I was certainly not aware of it.
Okay. So that's kind of the backstory.
Yeah, so I feel a little uncomfortable again in territory. It just seems like Mark was saying the liability, again, no other person in the town holds that kind of license. And I think we have to be very, very careful about that kind of stuff. So I'm concerned about it, actually. I'd rather have either, Terry said, go to the board for a decision, or I know that if we voted against it, then DBR can maybe settle the appeal. I just feel it's kind of in an area where it's an unknown, and I worry about that.
All right, just real quick here. Kind of lost here. Class D, the club, can they serve alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, why can't they serve the alcohol and just cater the food? Is that something they can do?
There's restrictions on that Class D license. I don't know the specifics. You were just back on, Patrick, when Terry suggested that this license came before planning and zoning in 2012. And it may be a good idea to consult or refer it back to planning and zoning to make sure they're not in violation of a restriction that was placed on it at the time it was granted. That was the last suggestion.
Okay. I mean, could they temporarily themselves serve alcohol while they cater until they get through planning and zoning? Because that's, they're booked up. That's going to be the kiss of death. We send them over there.
Well, if it's not, I don't know the restrictions, but because it's Class D, if it's not a club event, it's probably a violation of the liquor license.
Right. Well. Okay. That sounds like some more semantics, but okay. As far as I'm gonna go with this. Oh.
So should somebody make a motion to send it to the planning board for further review and see what they say?
Yeah, I mean, so this isn't a vote to approve. This is a vote to discuss and then direct staff, right? So that would be in line with that. So, I mean, I'm supportive of that, sending it to planning for review, both of their current license and this request as well. They could look at both of those. What do you think, Susan?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I thought the licensing, the state licensing could look at it, but apparently the only way they can look at it is if we voted down, and it's not up for a vote. It's just a point of information and where we go with it. So I think making a motion to the planning board to further review. I mean, we still have some time. They still have some time, right? It's not like they can't, continue with what they got going on, right? So I don't know. I didn't hear everybody else. Did the other members of the council weigh in at all?
I was concerned about finding out that, there had been Class P liquor licenses employed for some events before without, possibly without our understanding that was happening. So that's a
Yeah,
concern.
So I think, so for all of those reasons that we talked about, I don't think, we don't have to vote on it tonight, but I think we have to have a further review. And if it's not to Terry Donovan looking at the licenses, because she's so thorough, or maybe the planning board, I mean, I'm uncomfortable with it because of the liability on the town. And I mean, Mark did say that. So we have to be, thoughtful about that, because we don't want to have an issue. And again, it's not a license that is used in any other establishments in the town. This is different. That's why I was kind of confused. It's just different. So, and it's not my area of expertise. So I'd rather have a sound decision, on it, and recommending it to the council. That would be my hope, but.
Okay.
Mark, I got one more question. Does this fall under take it outside? Would this fall under?
This is definitely not take it outside.
Okay. This is keep it inside, but have multiple parties. Got it.
Exactly.
So if the council would like to send it to planning, we could do that. Or we can continue it, or we can direct Mark to give us a short report on it. There's multiple options here. So it just depends what the preference is. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, all right.
Go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead.
Now go ahead. Let's just go.
No, go ahead. You were going to say something. What's on your mind?
Mr. Daly, he's the attorney, right?
I am.
Okay, what do you have any suggestions? How do we solve this problem?
Well,
Or issue? I don't see it as a problem. I just see it as a bunch of semantics with liquor licenses.
yeah, so my view in recognizing that I'm an advocate, but also recognizing that I have an obligation to fairly analyze the law. I don't believe that what the club has been doing and is trying to seek the blessing of the council to do is illegal. And to the extent that there are concerns, and again, my brother, Mr. Davis, raised some legitimate concerns about liability and other things. And I know that the Galilee Beach Club would be ready, willing, and able to address any of those concerns, including the liability concern. And I think Ms. Bonanno expressed those concerns as well. Just so you're aware, Mr. Murray, because I think you were off when I was describing the history, the D license, well, let me back up. The club has always had contracts with caterers, concessionaire agreements with caterers for years. And those caterers would provide food and beverage during the summer under the D, as in dog. And then some events, and not a ton of events, but some events during what I call the shoulders of the season, the spring shoulder, April, May, beginning of June, and then September, October, November, the back shoulder. And for years, they've been doing that under the P. Someone asked, and it was a very good question, whether that was ever discussed with the town. And I candidly acknowledged that what's been told to me is that, yes, there was discussion, but to whom and with whom and when, I don't know those details. It was before my time as the club's attorney. But being where we are right now, of course,
I just missed all that. I was out for about a minute or so.
But with all due respect, Patrick, you're asking Kevin, he represents the club. We heard from our own attorney that it's a liability. So let's ask Mark Davis what his recommendation, if he should write a legal.
Well, I just have a question. All right. From what I understand, from what I gathered from getting shut out here twice, if they have a caterer, it's gotta be member driven. But they're asking for do different events that are non-member, correct?
Yeah, what we're talking about right now is events that anybody from the general public can book at the club for a wedding or a retirement party.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is determine what the club's rights are both to do those under their D because they're actively considering that right now.
Right.
We lost our caterer back in May. That's why this all came to a head. In the middle of COVID, there was a mutual parting of the ways with the caterer. And so now the club is trying to figure out how to do these off-season events legally. And so the question is, they're considering the model of doing them under their D in-house, but they're also considering what they've always done is doing them with the caterer coming in and doing it under the P.
All right, well, if it has to be membership driven, then just do a wedding of Mr. and Mrs. Smith and club member Mrs. Jones fundraiser for her sick cat. And there you go, you're covered.
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple.
Yeah, so can I make a motion to direct Mark as the
Easy,
attorney
Terry.
for the town to look into it and come back with some information to the council so that we make the best decision? I as a kid, I went to that club too. It's a great club. We want them to do well, but we also don't want the town to be on the hook for a liability or a problem. So if Mark examines it, reviews it, and comes back with the recommendations of the council, then I think we would feel, with all due
Okay.
respect, Kevin, you did a great job, but I think we just got to make sure we protect the town.
Of course.
I'll
Understood.
move that motion.
All right, I'll second that then.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to ask one question before we go forward with that. So it could be phrased in a couple different ways, this motion. So a recommendation would be asking Mark to say whether the town should or shouldn't grant this license. I don't know if that's the position that he should be in terms of making that sort of judgment call. I wonder if we ask Mark to provide a report on the possible negative effects versus, the positive effects, or is it irresponsible for the town to grant it, but not necessarily to recommend that we do it?
Okay, so I'm going to change that motion that the solicitor review and study the licenses and do the pros and cons for the council as far as the licensing of Galilee Beach Club. And that way we can make the recommendations, but he can give us the pros and cons or the positive and negatives or all of the information without really telling us what he thinks we should do, but give us the information so we can make the informed decision to do so.
Terry,
Great
you got
emotion there, Susan.
No, but you're right. That was a really good change because he's going to give us that information and we want to determine it. So just a motion to have the solicitor write some information on the licenses, the Galilee Beach Club, that will be provided for the council for review.
Okay.
That's better.
I'm just talking it through on my phone with
good.
no
That's good.
power.
Right.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Yeah, you're all set.
All
So
right.
when's the next event? No. Never mind.
So all in
You're
favor?
hearing about that in open hearing.
All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline, Bonanno, aye.
Eva,
Eva Trzynski, aye.
Deb,
Kopek, aye.
Patrick,
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Mr. Daly, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. Thank you.
I appreciate the club and Mr. Daly coming before the council because this is exactly the kind of dialogue that needed to take place and exactly the forum. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if I could just also add really quickly, and I know you don't need to hear this from me, but Terry Donovan is fabulous. She's been so responsive and helpful. And so I appreciate your help as well, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second on that.
Thanks, Terry.
All right. Okay, great. All right, so we have number 18 from the town solicitor, which is a motion to introduce, pass, read, and accept as a first reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in the town of Narragansett in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances to permit parking on the south side of Conant Ave, the north side of Pilgrim Ave, and the south side of Louis Avenue from 5:01 a.m. to 8:59 p.m. daily. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion. Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, great. So this is actually a first reading of the ordinance amendments from last meeting. That was the first reading. We're doing another first reading because of the amendment where we added in the time restrictions to it. Mark took the time to combine the three motions into one ordinance, or one motion. And it's one ordinance basically a bulk version of those amendments. Does that sound right, Mark?
That's correct.
Okay. So we talked about this in length 2 weeks ago. I'm just going to go around the council for commentary, and then we'll go to the public. Susan, do you have any thoughts or comments on this?
Oh, I just am satisfied. Again, I wanted to balance the residents in that beautiful area with the ability to have the surface access the ocean. So I think it was a really good, lot of work and thoughtfulness on both ends. And I think it was a good compromise, and I support it.
Thank you, Susan. Eva, any thoughts?
No, but thank you, Mark, for putting that all together for us.
All right, Deb,
Nothing to add.
Patrick.
All set.
Okay, I'm all set for now as well. So why don't we go to the public and take commentary? Dan, who do we have first?
First is SI. That's all I have for a name.
Hi, please state your full name and address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Scott LeClaire, 14 Louise Ave. And I was just calling can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I was calling to try to understand, you had just passed restricted parking on Nichols Avenue. And Conant, Louise, and Pilgrim are all identical to Nichols Avenue, obviously. Just as narrow, absolutely no difference. And as a matter of fact, Nichols Avenue even has no houses on the far side of Nichols Avenue there, and a mowed little area that's mowed and wetlands. I live on Louise, and my concern is across the street from our house. I've been mowing a little strip there. It's about 3 feet. And that area across the street is wetlands as well. No different than Nichols. The cars have parked there illegally. The surfers have been parking there. I'm a surfer myself. We have no problem with the surfers. However, they have caused tremendous damage there. As I mentioned, there's, about a 3-foot strip of the reeds from the wetlands used to come right up to the street. I mowed that small strip there, and then people started parking there. They've created huge, deep ruts there because it is wetlands. They've sunk into the grass. I can't even mow parts of it anymore because there's huge ruts from the cars parking there. And I'm just trying to understand why that would be considered a good place to park. It really makes no sense. Even if they park in the very small strip of grass, the cars will be sticking out into the road probably about 3.5 feet. Considering the average width of a car is about 6.5 feet wide, if you got 3 feet that of grass they can pull onto, again, sinking into the wetlands, they're sticking out into the road 3.5 feet. So how is that feasible parking?
All right, thank you. Dan, who do we have next?
Next, we have AMK Waters.
Hi, please state your full name and address.
Good evening, Anne Marie Colleen Waters at 27 Central Avenue.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I respectfully submit that the solution to the parking access debate on Point Judith is to create safe parking on Ocean Road. It is unacceptable for such a renowned thoroughfare in our community to be considered so unsafe by all who deem to use it. This parking debate is not about water access for some. It is about safety for everyone. Any idea to put parking on Conant, Louise, and Pilgrim Avenues is swapping out one group's safety for the convenience and safety of others. I wish it were as simple as Mr. Pugh put last meeting, that a father and daughter would park for an hour or two to bond and surf together. But with Google Maps and GPS, anyone with a phone driving from Boston Logan to JFK International Airports will be directed to our neighborhood where my children are riding their bikes and catching the school bus, and many citizens of Narragansett are enjoying coastline access by walking, running, and using the road safely. So this proposed parking allows some people to park sometimes for the purpose of recreation, while putting the citizens, the children, and year-round residents in danger every single day. Our neighborhood will be packed to the gills in the summer with people trying to avoid the $25 fee at Scarborough and Sand Hill Cove, which is a beautiful walk from this neighborhood. So at a minimum, there also needs to be a duration limit to any parking that's proposed in this neighborhood, although I disagree. And I believe that Ocean Road parking is a win-win-win for everyone involved. Parking and increased safety on Ocean Road would serve and satisfy not only the members of the Caliph community and the surfers, but also our community at large. It is a dereliction of duty to dismiss this parking option on Ocean because each of you think that Ocean Road is dangerous. If you believe Ocean Road to be dangerous, then does it not fall on you as leaders of this community to make the necessary changes so that Ocean Road is safe? Hundreds of families and visitors walk Ocean Road to access restaurants from their home and rental properties. Young and old, fit and differently abled, walk, run, bike to the lighthouse and our beautiful Fisherman's Memorial Park all along Ocean Road. Ocean Road is a wide, double yellow lined road that is perfect for safe parking to be established on its west side. And Ocean Road parking is closer parking than most parking spaces that surround our town beach. The state will absolutely give us the necessary funds and attention that we need to keep our roads and communities safe, as Narragansett is a vital part of our state's income and tourism. And there is a $400 million budget proposal in the vote coming up for our state roads. I cannot imagine the esteemed members of this council not being able to get a teeny portion of that to solve the parking problem and to make Ocean Road safe, satisfying the residents, visitors, surfer, fishermen, and exercise enthusiasts alike. Please consider Ocean Road as the parking solution for the Point Judith debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Seahorse Properties.
Hi, please state your full name and address.
Yes, Martin Eaton, 24 Caliph Avenue, Narragansett.
Go ahead, Martin.
I wish to state my objection to this amendment. You, Jesse, have been quoted and are on record as saying that the problem that exists here can be fixed by saying that you can now park legally on one side of the road on 3 streets. Frankly, I don't understand how, as the previous person has said, that you can make such a statement, swapping one group safety for another. This restriction has been in place since 1976, and you council members now seek to change that. And I fail to understand why you would want to do it. Perhaps it is what Patrick said once before, basically indicating his bias, but he said council members were historically influenced by absentee owners. And in fact, this is an attitude that seems to prevail in the council where you seek to punish absentee owners who pay their taxes like any other property owner and want to award some kind of privileged situation to a special group of people. Frankly, I respectfully submit that you people are going about this in the wrong way. Patrick has originally suggested in previous applications that you guys have operated on a haphazard basis, and this seems to be the case here. You have done no research, and there are no reports, and there's no indication placed before us that any experts, both in-house yourselves, any experts that are available to you have given their support or their recommendations how to deal with this problem. I cannot understand, in the absence of any of you being specialists, how you can go about making this recommendation. And aside from Patrick's comments, I can only assume that you're doing so because you don't have the expertise to make a correct decision, and that you should avail yourself of the specialists that are available to you. Also, you've done no research on the alternatives that have been discussed and suggested. And every time you come to a decision, it's defined as being a compromise. Well, frankly, a compromise is not an informed decision. It is either dictated by, say, your bias or your attitude, but I really would respectfully submit that you have the expertise available to you. Go and get the reports of all these people and then submit it to us on a transparent basis. I also make the statement that this is now the third time that you've acknowledged that you've had this meeting, and it suggests that you really don't know what way to deal with this problem other than a futile compromise suggestion. This has been before meetings on this, as you said.
All right, we're at 4 minutes. If you could wrap it up.
All right, well, to your justification again, Patrick, was how did you come to a south or north side positioning of the parking bays and said, oh, we looked at a Google map? Well, could you please provide evidence to us that the Google map is consistent both that day, every successive day, on weekends, different times? That's a nonsense suggestion to substantiate why the park should be on the south or north side of the road. You've done nothing to address the emergency situation. I'm just finishing the last passage. You've done nothing to address the emergency.
Dan, who do we have next? We have to keep our comments to 3 minutes, please, so everybody can speak.
Next is Avon Durfee.
Avon, please state your full name and address.
Avon Durfee, 221 Sunnybrook Farm Road. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Coastal access is becoming a more and more popular topic around the world, especially here in these meetings. I strongly believe in private property rights and the quiet enjoyment of it, and no government should ever take away private property from the rightful owner. I also believe that private landowners should never infringe on the rights of the public to freely access the ocean. Here's a quick excerpt from Article 1, Section 17 of the Rhode Island Constitution. The people shall continue to enjoy and freely exercise all the rights of fishery and the other privileges of the shore, and they shall be secure in their rights in the use and enjoyment of the natural resources of the state. Even the Code of Ordinances in Narragansett mentions this. According to Chapter 1054, Section 82-177 of the Narragansett Code of Ordinances, no person shall block, barricade, or in any way impede the public use or of access to designated public rights of way to the water as defined by the Coastal Resource Management Council or the town. This is the duty of the elected officials of this town to enforce these code of ordinances, and this is no exception. For years, surfers and these residents have lived peacefully alike. This has never been an issue in our town until the surfers started being ticketed. These tickets are the first step towards impeding the public's use and access of these rights of way according to Ordinance 82-177. Tonight's motion is a suitable compromise to this issue. After this amendment is passed, limited parking will be available to access the water at these rights of way. On one hand, all Narragansett residents get the right to park and access the water freely, as stated in the Rhode Island Constitution. And on the other hand, for the residents, parking will still be limited on one side of the street. This solution is to benefit both sides of this issue, and I fully support and applaud this council in their diligence and effort in providing this solution. I hope they continue to move in the right direction in holistically expanding coastal access for all. Thank you for hearing the needs of all the residents of Narragansett.
Thank you, Avon. Who do we have next, Dan?
Next is Stephen Fulop.
Mr. Fulop, please state your full name and address.
Stephen Fulop, 84 Califf, the corner of Califf and Pilgrim. I just want to express my sentiment that was similar to one of the earlier callers with regards to how I feel as a resident there, father of two small children. And I constantly feel like we're under attack as residents in that community. Point Judith is a beautiful place. You are elected representatives tasked with protecting our rights as much as anybody else. And it constantly feels like we're in search of a solution for a problem that really doesn't exist. If you spend any amount of time down there beyond just checking the box to say that you've explored an ordinance, you would see that most days, 99% of the time, there's constant traffic accessing the water, surfing, no tickets, no police patrol, and people get along. When this process started in January, it started with a proposal for 17 parking spaces and gravel throughout the entire area. And in the course of that conversation, that meeting, after a long dialogue, somehow it changed to double or triple the number of parking spots going all the way down the road. Now, the council was complacent with 17 spots to start the conversation to solve the problem of surfer access, which most people in that neighborhood, including myself, don't object to. But we just asked for a measured approach. And this seems excessive, whereas the starting point was just 17 parking spaces. And somehow it's changed our entire community to a proposal to be a parking lot. And it feels like it just doesn't stop. So I'd ask the council to use the measured approach and understand or think about what it would feel like if you lived in that community, if you had a family in that community, and if people were inviting constant traffic, not only to solve a problem for surfers, but constant traffic just for the sake that the council can. And we respect the fact that you can. We know that you can, but we're just asking you to respect our community the same way you're looking to advocate for the surfers. And this is a very, very big step you're all taking here with a number of parking spots. And it's going to drastically change the character of those streets and that community forever. So I just want to echo the sentiment of some of the previous speakers here with the great concern that I have about what's being proposed here. And I'm asking to please use a measured approach and please take into consideration that we have families, that we do live there, that we do love the community, and that we do pay taxes, and we do support you guys. And we know it's not an easy job, but we do feel like we're under attack. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, who's up next?
Next is Michael Bialik.
Michael, please state your full name and address.
It's Michael Bialik, 9 Baldwin Court, Narragansett. The Connet and Pilgrim Avenues are and have been the jewel of surfing for the East Coast. And parking was always available prior to any signage. And when the signage was up years ago, it was really not enforced. The parking was not enforced. So despite this, and there was plenty of parking, despite this, and only after the owners purchased knockdown houses to put up and spend another $1 million, has this parking issue been is not, as these owners would desire, to be a gated community. It's not a gated community. Those right-of-ways are for all Narragansett residents. for me at 9 Baldwin, where I pay taxes as well, for the people on the north end. So I applaud the council for seeing that and believing that and providing public access to all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Dan, who's up next?
Next is Paula Darren.
Paula, please state your full name and address. Are you there? Looks like you are unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay, Dan, why don't we go, we'll try Paula again. Why don't we move on to the next person?
Next is Peg Fredette.
Peg, please state your full name and address.
Peg Fredette, 110 Gibson Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I really don't know what the right answer is, and I'm sort of glad I'm not in your shoes to try to make a decision on this. But as a longtime resident, and then now as a involved person in the Chamber of Commerce, you know, clearly people have been coming here for many, many decades, and surfers have also been surfing for many decades. And I enjoy hearing a lot of the stories about fathers and sons and kids, you know, learning the craft from one another. I am one of those that says, well, maybe we need to think about this differently, because parking's a problem no matter what. So whether we're talking about the surfers, or we're talking about a summer program, an event, a fair, the beach, let's face it, we have a parking problem in Narragansett. So I'm a little bit on a soapbox about the trolley. I'm probably a broken record, but I'm going to bring it up again. I think that we really should think about how to move people around our town. They're going to come here. We want people to enjoy what the beautiful land and the ocean that we have. I don't think anyone wants to be selfish about that, but we need to know how to move people around. And we have these school parking lots. We used to have a trolley service. RIPTA has small buses. Why can't we run those, at least during the peak seasons, and bring surfers or whomever to wherever they're trying to go for access? And this way we won't potentially have people, you know, changing their clothes out in someone's parking lot or front lawn. And, you know, we'll have a schedule for that trolley or bus or whatever you want to call it that comes by and picks people up after they're done. Maybe that's the way we look into the future, to make our town welcoming, but at the same time respect our residents. So I just like us to throw the trolley type subject back out on the table, even though it might be somewhat unpopular. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Yeah, anyone else?
Paula Darren, if she's still available.
Okay, try her again. Paula, you there? All right, you want to try going to Sydney?
Yep, Sydney's next.
All right, please state your full name and address.
Hi there, Sydney Ghazi, 35 Caliph Avenue. I strongly disagree with the council's proposal to change the parking ordinance in the avenues in Point Judith. I'm going to repeat over the last 2 years some of the points that have been brought up by my neighbors and various community members. The parking is a huge problem. The streets, as you know, were deemed unavailable for extra parking by our own police, and by our own fire department has come in and done a survey to check that for you. And it's been proven that emergency vehicles cannot get down those streets for safety reasons. And so far, that doesn't seem to matter at all to the town council, because we keep pushing this through and we keep reading articles in the newspaper about the neighborhood is this anti-surfing, blocking access to the right-of-ways, which is completely untrue at all. We welcome access to the waterways. We welcome access to the right-of-ways. We don't have the ability to provide parking for your car, but that doesn't seem to get the message through. So that's on you guys with your own town people. We as neighbors have gone to you and explained to you that we have beautiful neighbors that go through and clean up the mess after a huge surfing experience. We've cleaned up dirty clothing, muddy towels that nobody wants to take home anymore, broken chairs, trash. This is all something we take on as a neighborhood to maintain this area. The town does not come in and do this for us. We also have to put up with social media posts that threaten us to burn our houses down. And this has all been brought to you many, many times, and yet nothing is ever done. Nobody ever expresses any concern over this. Neighbors have been bullied by surfers, by the community, by this almost like this Robin Hood effect, where these neighbors from out of town have taken over the access and nobody's allowed in. And one caller even said we wanted some kind of a gated system. That is absolutely false and not true. And so this bothers me. I feel like the town council has already made up their mind. They've already decided what they're going to do. You're hearing what I'm saying, and I've said it many, many times before. So this is nothing new that I'm saying. But to add all of this additional parking into a neighborhood with young children, you've heard it from a school bus driver that cannot get a school bus down to deliver kids back and forth from school. Please recognize that there are wonderful neighbors that have actually come forward and asked to be part of the solution. And tonight you've heard a great solution about parking on Ocean Road. We've had community members and business owners offer parking within 0.2 of a mile so that surfers can walk in. Please use the access area, not just for surfing, for all water enthusiasts. Nobody is blocking that. Nobody's keeping that away from anybody. But why on earth are you continuing to force feed parking into this area that really cannot substantiate it? So therefore, I thank you for your time. And I really hope that you take the time to hear us again and again and again. This is important to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dan, who do we have?
Go with Stuart.
Stuart, please state your full name and address.
Stuart Sheehan, 35 Tanglewood Trail. I'd just like to come out and support the motion and the parking there. I will be fairly brief because this has been discussed at length, but I'm just, to go back in the history of it, the same people that are saying, oh, now there's parking on the sides of the street, it's going to be a parking lot, the road's too narrow, etc. The same people that are speaking adamantly against gravel and kind of infrastructure investments and all the other proposals. So it's, in my mind, it's just very clear what the motive is. And it was even so clear tonight as to people suggest that compromise is a folly, which I think was fairly insulting to people that have engaged in the process. So just want to come out with support as a fellow Narragansett resident, homeowner, taxpayer, etc. Thank you.
Stuart. All right, Dan, anyone else?
Yes, Carol.
Carol, please state your full name and address.
Louise Avenue. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm not sure that these people realize that what our neighborhood really is. Our neighborhood is all of Point Judith neighborhood. We have a lot of families that are visiting us. We have friends that come in the summer. Many children in the neighborhood, I'm sure you haven't been there. They ride their bikes, they walk, they ride scooters. They are very friendly with everyone else in the neighborhood. It's truly a friendly neighborhood. We have block parties. We have a 4th of July parade that everybody takes part in. So everybody is, families are friends, the children are friends. The children are actually friends with some of my relatives that come, and they ride their bicycles, they use their scooters. You will find any part of the day that all of the walkers come from Breakwater. They come to a lot of our events. They are also part of the community. I walk every day, and I have never been walking, but what I pass way more walkers than live there. It is a walking neighborhood. The Break Hotel has recommended that their guests come down and walk in our neighborhood. So we have a lot of walkers, we have skateboarders, we have bike riders, we have scooters, all kinds of different activities with the children. And their place that they get together is between houses and on the streets in the neighborhood. There certainly are other places. I keep hearing these surfers that have no place to park. The surfers have been offered to park at the Bonneville. They have Fisherman's Memorial. They have one of the best surfing places in front of Breakwater, which they call a K. And they managed to park on Ocean Avenue over there and find no problems with their safety. I think that it is a neighborhood, and a lot of the activity and a lot of the children's activity takes place on the streets in the neighborhood. And many, many people walk in that neighborhood. So I think you have no inkling of our neighborhood. You don't live there, but I think if you listen to the neighbors, it is a neighborhood. It is its own Point Judith community. And we have nothing against anyone else, but I think that the danger, you keep speaking of the danger on Ocean Avenue. The danger is much, much worse on those 3 streets that you want to have people parking. To all of our children, our visitors, thank you.
Thank you. Dan, anyone else?
Next is Paul Zonfrillo.
All right, Paul, please state your full name and address.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Circle. I'm really concerned at how tone deaf the council's on this issue and not listening to the neighbors. I do, Mr. Murray was as passionate about taking care of our residents as he is about out-of-town surfers. You know, we're going to put gravel, rip up neighborhoods. And, you know, I have to give credit to the Ocean Access people. They've framed parking as an access issue, which I'm sorry, it's not. There's nothing in the state constitution about being able to park. And where does it end? You know, is it just the surfers? Should you be able to take a fishing boat there? Should you be able to take a battleship? You know, where does it all end? And it's really disappointing to see this council, you know, between Mr. Murray's comments, and he doubled down on them today, that eastward look is gone. Well, I mean, that means you give up. So how many other neighborhoods are we going to make gone or damage for outside interests in our town? You're just not listening to the people there. And it seems like, once again, out-of-towners have higher priority than residents. And it always shocks me when people say, well, we have to consider everybody. You know, Susan said she pulled the motion. I'm sure she's going to bring that motion back. You know, when URI gives us some gobbledygook about how they're going to take care of everything, make it all nice, you know, and in her motion before, she said, we've got to be fair to the URI students. It's shocking. It is shocking that residents are being treated so poorly by our town council. So please reconsider, pull this motion, pull the one about the gravel, and please support the residents. This is not supportive of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Dan, you want to try Paula one more time?
Absolutely.
Paula, are you able to speak? So right now it looks like you're muted, so try unmuting now. No. All right, we tried. Sorry, Paula. If you're able to get on another item, we could try it again so you can get your point across. All right, so that is it for public comment. Let's just go around through the council one more time before we take the vote. Susan, any last thoughts?
I'm all set.
All right, Eva?
Yeah, so I do want to make a clarification and a comment. A lot of the callers were saying that we don't respect the taxpayers, the individuals who live in that neighborhood. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of other taxpayers, a lot of taxpayers that do not live in that neighborhood and that want access and want parking. So I am looking out for the residents of our town. And I think this is what needs to be done to be fair to everyone and keep the access. It's a public right of way for everybody in this town to enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, Eva. Deb, any thoughts before we vote?
I'm all set.
All right, Patrick? You're muted right now.
Okay, I just want to summarize. Yeah, it was said that we've been having too many meetings and we're not informed, not undecisive here. So we're trying to get this right. We didn't talk to any experts. The police and fire were down there. They did choose, these roads. And let's talk about Google Maps. If you look on Google Maps, both the end of Conant and the end of Pilgrim are clear state access points. And it's the town's charge is to protect those access points and maintain them for public access. It's in our charter, and that's what this council's doing. It's as far as parking on one side of the street, in most neighborhoods in Narragansett, you can park on one side of the street. You can park on my street. There's cars out front every now and then. I grew up in Narragansett Avenue. It was parking on both sides of the street. So this isn't out of the ordinary. And this isn't just about surface. This is about people who, scuba divers, anybody who wants to access the water down there. This isn't just about surface. And it seemed to me everything was fine. When we started this discussion. Oh, we don't need parking. We're all sad that we have a great relationship with the surface. Everything's fine down here. It was all hunky-dory until we really started to move forward to provide parking. Then all of a sudden, we got a bunch of naked surfers running around down here. So, and they're making a mess. And before it was they're all polite and this and that. So I get it. You feel, the homeowners down there feel that this is an encroachment. But again, this is a state constitutional generational access point that has provided parking for generations. The rub is they started towing cars. They started ticketing cars. So that's why we're here. We're going to straighten this out. Listen, I want as little impact on the neighborhood as possible. But clearly there's encroachments down there that affects other people's rights. And it isn't people from out of town. And people live right here in Narragansett. So, thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Just a couple quick things before we vote. Eva, you said it perfectly. I was going to say something very similar to what you said. We do try to do our best to represent all the residents of the town. It's expected that if this is an item that's going to affect your street or your neighborhood, I expect some pushback. We expect that, but we have to do our best to do what we think is best for the town. and all the residents in the town and all the taxpayers. In terms of why this process has taken so long, I think it's taken so long because we've gone out of our way as a council this term to be as transparent as possible throughout this process, to let people speak on every motion, on every amendment, and to make sure procedurally we do this the right way. So the reason why this is a first reading, again, is because we made an amendment and we're doing a first reading. It's not because we're indecisive, it's because we're trying to cover all of our bases and make the process as clean and as democratic as possible. Again, we've been working on this for a year and a half. So this isn't something that we just threw together. We also have tried to compromise. You know, the initial proposals were to designate areas which would be gravelled. There was pushback to that. So let's remember that what we're doing here, this proposal does nothing structurally to that neighborhood. What it does is takes the penalty away from people that are parking on that road. And like Patrick said earlier, what we heard from residents was that they're fine with the surfers. They like watching them surf. Everything's okay. And we haven't changed anything. What we've changed is whether they're going to get a ticket or not for doing what they have been doing there for decades, which is park on that street. On those streets that are the same width as my road in front of my house right now. So I don't think that those roads are as substandard as other roads in neighborhoods in Narragansett. The difference is that you live in a area of town where people want to go and they want to park. You may have purchased there more recently. You may have been there for generations, but that neighborhood is a destination, and people are parking on public roads in your neighborhood. So I think that's really it. But why don't we go ahead and take the vote? Susan, we'll start with you.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Wojciechowski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopek, aye.
And Patrick, you're muted right now. Can you unmute?
Yep. Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 19 is a motion to approve the termination of the purchase and sale agreement for property located at 29 Pier Marketplace. Authorize the release of the escrowed funds related to that agreement and authorize the town manager to sign the release of the town's behalf. Is there a motion?
I'll move that motion.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Deb. So this one's from Mark. Mark, could you give us a little background on this?
Sure. I think as most people know, back in 2019, the town council had entered into a purchase and sales agreement with DSM Pier Realty, the owners of Pier Liquors, to sell the Pier Liquor space, or the space currently occupied by Pier Liquors, plus the 9 parking spots they're currently using, in addition to the second floor directly above the building. And as we know, there were lawsuits, there was a settlement agreement, but notwithstanding any of that, this P&S remains out there. And in speaking to DSM Pier Realty's legal counsel, there is a willingness and a desire to put this matter behind, I think, both parties once and for all. The mutual release allows or authorizes me to refund the $50,000 deposit that I'm holding, reimburse them for expenses that they incurred at the direction of the town that was necessary at the time to start the condominium process, and waive obligations and liabilities to each other. So it's a formality to terminate this purchase and sale agreement once and for all.
All right. So let's just go around the council real quick for questions and comments. Susan?
I have none.
All right. Eva?
I don't have any questions or comments.
Okay. Deb?
Set.
Patrick.
Yes, Mark, I have a couple questions. This is a mutual agreement for termination, correct?
Yes, it only works if both parties sign it, and my conversations with DSM Pure Realty's counsel is that they're willing to sign it and move forward in a different direction with the town pursuant to the lease that they now have.
Correct. And they got a 10-year lease, correct?
They have a 5-year lease with a 5-year renewal.
5-year option, correct. And then they have a deposit and they will receive that deposit back, correct?
As soon as that agreement's signed by both parties, I will refund the $50,000 deposit.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
One question, the reimbursement of the survey costs, was that something that was promised as from the town that it would be reimbursed after the sale? Or is that just standard practice that this would get reimbursed?
No, that it's not standard practice. It was my recollection, Jesse, that, well, first, it's the town's obligation. We were selling the building to condominium, to take that and create condominiums in order to transfer that particular property. And if you recall in executive session, there needed to be survey / some engineering to provide Steve Marcello with the information he needed to start those condo documents. And then at that time, DSM Pure Realty had a way to get that done faster than the town did. So it was the town's obligation all along. The agreement, as far as I recall, was that at closing, they would be credited that amount. Obviously, we didn't go to closing, and they're asking us to reimburse that amount.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. All right, Dan, who do we have with their hand up for this one?
First, we have Charam.
All right, so just a reminder, we're on the item for the Pure Liquor termination. I know a couple of these hands were up for the last item, so we'll go ahead. First name, full name and address, please. All right, yeah, why don't we move on to the next person?
Next one is Nancy DiNuccio.
Nancy, please state your full name and address.
Hi, everybody. Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive, Narragansett. You can hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just curious as to why this took so long and why we held on to that $50,000 in escrow when this settlement agreement happened, quite a few months ago. And I'm wondering, was there interest being gained during that time period that it should have been returned to Pure Liquors? What was the holdup? My question.
All right, thank you. Mark, was there any reason why this wasn't done a couple months ago?
Well, no one on the town council had brought it up. And I had not heard from Pure Liquors. I mean, Pure Liquors could have insisted that they were going to try to enforce their rights under the purchase and sales agreement. It's not gaining any interest. It's in a non-interest bearing account. And I took it upon myself to reach out to Pure Liquors counsel, and that's why it's being done now. But yeah, that's why. The settlement agreement did not, as you know, the town was not a party to that settlement agreement. The settlement agreement did not address specifically or expressly the purchase and sales agreement. And I remember when that was being circulated, there was always the argument being discussed on the Pure Liquor side that the settlement agreement did not expressly void that purchase and sales agreement. So there was always the possibility that Pure Liquors could seek specific performance. That's why I thought it was important to get this mutual release, put it behind everybody and move forward.
All right. So once this is signed by both parties, the deal, everything's clear, done. Everything's officially off for this PNS.
Correct.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Mark. Any last comments from the council? Okay, let's go ahead and take the vote. We'll start with you, Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva?
Eva Drushinsky, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick?
Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 5-0.
Oh, boy.
All right, now we have motion number 20 from the town council, or from a town council member, a motion to direct the town manager to hire through an RFP a surveyor to execute a survey of the town's right-of-ways that terminate at the east end of both Connet and Pilgrim Avenues for the purpose of adding safe parking options for public ocean access. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Do we have a second?
Anyone?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Eva. So this is Councilman Murray's item. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Council President. Okay, we're back at Connet and Pilgrim Avenues. Again, these are two generational access points that have not been maintained. I think they need to be surveyed. I know Flynn Surveying Inc. He reached out to me. A couple properties have been surveyed recently, so that should cut the cost. Town manager, I believe, it's right around $5,000 to spend that money to shoot the corners down there and find out what's going on. So again, these are, it's my understanding, they're state right-of-ways maintained by the town, and we're looking, for access and safe parking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go around the council before we go to the public and take comments. We'll start with Susan.
So one of the things that we had talked about is listening to the residents down there as far as the roads and not adding the gravel. So I was pretty comfortable with the decision we made. It seems a little late on the motion. I mean, we're reading the ordinance and passed the ordinance tonight, first reading. So, I mean, they were clear about not wanting those. I mean, part of the character down there is just those beautiful little streets, and they see the ocean. So I'm not really, although I appreciate Patrick's motion, I think it's going to create more of a discourse down there. So I'm not sure I'm in support. I'll keep an open mind and listen to the discussion.
All right, Eva.
So, Patrick, this is just to really assess just the whole right of way, not necessarily like add gravel or anything. It's just more of a survey.
Well, I'll tell you what, have everyone speak and I'll show you what I have. What the hell's the guy's name? Dan, you have those? Mr. Holland?
I do.
Okay, all right. Well, let's let everybody speak, then we'll go to the paperwork, the aerials, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I'll just listen, see if that answers my questions. Thank you.
All right.
Deb, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Patrick, if what you're going to show us is going to answer my question, so I'm going to ask it. I couldn't quite understand what the ultimate purpose of this was, and I want to make sure that the folks, watching and listening understand why you chose to recommend this motion.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
So you're going to talk about it afterwards. Okay.
Well, I got to show you. I got to show you the aerial shots.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I feel like I'm going to be let down by these aerial shots, but so I'll speak first, then I'll see what you got. Surprise us.
You had your name on it there for a while. I don't know what happened there, but.
All right. So I've been thinking about this item over the weekend. And let me first say that I originally put on the item to add parking to this neighborhood a year and a half ago. That was when I received reports from people that a lot of people were getting ticketed down in that neighborhood, and it was starting to become an issue that hadn't really been occurring years prior, because that was just traditionally a place people would go surf and park. As that started to change, because those parkers were getting reported and ticketed, the idea was, let's correct this issue. And to be honest, when I first put it on, it was to direct the community development director to look into options for parking there. I didn't actually, maybe it was naivety, but I didn't expect the controversy at that time. Obviously, that was kind of incorrect. But the idea was, how do we get parking there? We haven't even done the second reading of the ordinance yet. When we do, then we will have made parking legal in that neighborhood. Again, a year and a half of this, a lot of meetings, a lot of residents on both sides. One of the reasons why I proposed the Coastal Access Improvement Committee was to take over these issues, to study them, to use their expertise, and to send recommendations to the council. You could say that maybe they should study the parking in general there. I think we've put a lot of time into that. What we've decided to do is something that is low impact, meaning we're not changing anything structurally in that neighborhood. It's just an ordinance change that can technically be changed back if necessary. So for me, the Coastal Access Improvement Committee should be the body that looks into these sort of things. So any sort of larger plans for access points, any sort of surveys, research, recommendations, I would like to see that responsibility come off the shoulders of the council moving forward, and to go to a body that's focused on that, who then sends us recommendations. Because our meetings are long. Our meetings are a good 5 hours every meeting, and we have so many other things that this council should be focusing on, that I think that going forward with this is going to prolong this issue and the emotions behind this issue. And I don't know that that is something that we need to do right now. I think that the people that are for access are going to be happy that they could park in that neighborhood. And when we start getting into things like surveying and possibly widening an area, this is just an issue that's going to be, prominent all term. And I would really like to see the Coastal Access Improvement Committee take this on. And I'm going to have a motion next meeting to actually nominate and appoint the members of that committee. So that'll be coming soon. So I'm just not sure that this is something that I'm willing to push on right now. And I am obviously a Coastal Access supporter. So that's where I'm at on it right now. But show me these aerial photos. All right.
All right, you're up, Mr. Holland.
Second.
Anytime. Good. Okay, what you see here is the east end of Conant Street, and clearly you can see to the south, 24, Caliph. There is encroachment. This is the GIS map program with the town, and it's deemed to be pretty accurate. Certainly, everybody's complaining that there's no place to park. Just keep cars off the street, and clearly you can see that the property to the south has encroached. If I remember, there's boulders down there. I think things can be worked out. 1 inch equals 46 feet, as you can see in the scale. That's probably a half inch we're talking, so there's at least 20 feet there from the asphalt line. And again, these are generational access points. In this particular case, there's a stairway that was built by the town several years ago, many years ago, that goes down to the water. Clearly showing intent to maintain. So I'm, we got to get this right for future generations. And I'm afraid if we, put it into a committee that's not even formed yet, that's just kicking the can down the road. I'd rather get some dialogue going, get the job done, and have everybody work with the property owners and have everybody's demarcation lines settled. So I guess we can go to the next slide. Again, to the south of Pilgrim. 51 Pilgrim. No, actually, that's, what is that? That's, yeah, that's Pilgrim. 51 Pilgrim has, their grass line. It's to a certain extent 84, but not as bad, but again, those are what the GIS, the town says. There's been recent surveys down there. Show there's pins in the ground. Pointed out from James Flynn, a local surveyor. He reached out to me. So again, these are bona fide access points, state access points, generational. And I would like to settle this during this council session and not kick the can down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, why don't we go to the public for comments, and we'll come back to the council before we vote. So Dan, who are we starting off with?
First is AMK Waters.
All right, Anne Marie, please state your full name and address.
Anne Marie Colleen Waters, 27 Central Avenue. With all respect to you, Jesse, to Ava, and to Patrick, when talking about this, every time we mention the safety, you all nobly say that you're thinking of everyone in the town. And I appreciate that, but it's not that we're not arguing for no access and no parking. We're holding you to account on your solution to that problem. There's state access waterways. We have a state road at Ocean Road with no houses on it. And your response to using that solution is, oh, that road's not safe. And frankly, that's not good enough. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of people that walk, bike, and run that should be able to use Ocean Road safely. And it is our responsibility, yours and ours as citizens, to do that. Why would we spend any time and money jamming up our neighborhood with parking lots and widening roads when we can use Ocean Road? All of the members of Caliph community want access well, and we want parking, safe parking. We can achieve that for coastline access using Ocean Road. It is a smart, common sense solution for which we won't even have to pay. And this parking space addition is not just a place where we can go surfing and throw a line in the water. With GPS and parking apps, it is going to be a listed site on parking blogs and inside traveler tips on anyone looking to avoid paying beach fees. And we can make Ocean Road safe, lower the speed limit, put in speed bumps, add traffic cams, add a desperately needed sidewalk, increase signage. There's a $400 million DOT Rhode Island state budget that's in the works right now. 80% of it is coming from the federal government due to the stimulus with the pandemic. Why not take that opportunity to absolutely, the debate is over. Everyone wants access and everyone agrees that people should be able to park near the ocean access. But the solution is wrong. It's not the right solution. The solution is Ocean Road. By focusing safety measures on Ocean Road, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Solve the parking issues and solve the Ocean Road safety issues. We will then be able to provide safe and convenient access to the coastline with parking on Ocean Road without compromising the safety of children and citizens. And as we're reckoning back to the good old days, the reason why, Jesse, you started hearing about these problems is because when there were high tides and the surf was up, the school buses couldn't turn. They couldn't make a turn. So one of the school bus monitors would call the police and say, we can't safely turn this bus around with children on it. And they would have to move the cars that were on the corners of the roads. The roads in this community are too narrow. The parking does not fit, but there's a double lane state road right next to the ocean access that will allow safe parking. The community members will be happy. You can amble 200 feet, less than a football field, down to the ocean. No one would be parking and changing in front of anybody's house, and it will be a win-win-win. So again, we're not looking for you to change your view on parking. We are looking for all of you, every one of you, Susan, Miss Copel, Jesse, Eva, Patrick, to reconsider your solution. The solution, and it's a free solution because we won't have to pay for it. The solution is parking, safe, beautiful parking along the empty, wide, open, straight, beautiful Ocean Road that will serve to also give beautiful access, walking and riding down to Fisherman's Memorial, to the lighthouse,
Thank you,
safety for
Anne-Marie.
people walking to restaurants, and safety for surfers and people who want access. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, who do we have next?
Next, we have Scott Leclerc.
Scott, please state your full name and address.
Scott Leclerc, 14 Louise Avenue. Yeah, and I agree. I just don't understand why Ocean Road is not the solution. You know, the residents, we all agree with the surfers. We want to give them access. We have no problem with access. Again, as I mentioned before, where you're saying to put parking is not feasible. The roads are too narrow. Again, you just restricted parking on Nichols Avenue, yet you're talking about putting parking on the other 3 roads that are identical to Nichols Avenue. So the town council is not making any sense here. What is wrong with Ocean Road? You look at Ocean Road in the downtown by the towers, there's parking on both sides. Massive amounts of money have been spent to build the town pier, to give access to the ocean. And there's no reason why they can't do the same thing to the other end of Ocean Road. And it's not even as big of a project. All you have to do is put in some sidewalks and push the shoulders a bit, and there'll be plenty of room for plenty of cars. And there is absolutely no one opposed to that. But the town council just does not hear anything we say. You listen, you don't respond, and then you eye the motion every time. We want to feel like we've been heard. We pay taxes in this town, and we are trying to help the other residents get access to the shore, and we are trying to present a good solution that everybody comes out and everybody is happy with. So if the town council could please consider putting that parking in Ocean Road. I mean, the safety of Ocean Road, that's just an excuse. There's no reason that the speed limit can't be set appropriately, and that should be a lower speed limit anyways. Because as we mentioned, Ocean Road is a very busy recreational road at this point with tons of walkers, bikers, joggers. So all the more reason that road should be improved and parking added. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we proceed, so just a reminder to anyone speaking, this item is on the surveying of the right-of-way on Pilgrim and Connet, not on the parking ordinances that we voted on a few items ago. So please stick to the item. Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Bill Sharella.
Bill, please state your full name and address.
Bill Sharella, 91 Califf Avenue. And for the record, a Rhode Island native, a full-time resident, and owner of 2 properties, 91 Califf Avenue for 12 years, 51 Pilgrim, which Mr. Murray just showed on the PowerPoint slide, for 9 years. I've been on record since this debate has been going on to find a win-win in support since May of 2019, both in person and on these Zoom calls, and you just approved it. Okay, so now, but I am not in support of this number 20. Obviously, I'm concerned. If you look at the aerials, why do you have to go and survey these sites when it's clear you'll be inches away from a property, the property that I own, that's been there since 1958. I'm concerned about my family. I'm concerned about my pets. You guys know environmental concerns, right? I don't know why anyone who's environmentally conscious in today's world, in the reality of climate change, would want to disrupt the precious wildlife ecosystem down there, to introduce vehicle runoff into the oceans, consider destroying, meticulously maintained land that I maintain and pay taxes on, which we'll talk about in a second, and basically put a parking lot in a quiet neighborhood that accommodates a couple, that could possibly, if you look at it, accommodate a couple more cars, maybe 1 or 2 more cars, depending on how you want to change the direction, yet destroy the access point for everybody. So never mind the behavioral issues, which seem to get no attention, which is changing in and out of wetsuits, speeding, drug usage, disregard of personal property, blaring music, dogs in the cars, et cetera, et cetera. Why would that be brought within inches of my home? I've been fair. I can tell you this weekend was a high surf weekend. Even today, nobody called the police. No tickets were issued. Everybody cohabitated correctly. Why are we doing this? We just approved, or you just approved 40 to 50 spots in that neighborhood. And so is this the most pressing infrastructure issue that we have today, folks? I mean, the roads have fallen apart, right? We've got drainage issues. We got over the ground utilities that go out almost, every storm. We don't have sewers, just to accommodate 2 or 3 more spots, possibly. So I guess that's the question. Secondly, yesterday I got my updated tax, and it's been clear that I've been paying for that full property, maintaining and paying for that full property. And I can tell you, it was a whopping eye opener of what it's evaluated for. So if this thing gets maintained and taken away, there is a significant reduction to property values, mine and my neighbors, that will obviously we have to contest for the tax implications, all for a couple more parking spots. It makes no sense. So thank you guys for listening, and I appreciate you being fair on this issue.
Thank you, Bill. Dan, who's up next?
Next is Seahorse Properties.
It's Martin Ettengain, 524 Califf. I think the last 3 speakers have summarized the position very eloquently, and I think every one of you there knows and accepts that never has anyone denied access to surfers or visitors to the ocean. We encourage it. In fact, speaking for myself, not a day goes by when there's not a knock on our door, somebody asking for first aid, use of a cell phone, use of our bathrooms, so on and so on. They traverse our property as if they but it belongs to them. They come out of the ocean because of the currents and trap all over. Never mind the drugs and the disrobing, the noise. But it's a privilege to live in the ocean, and we share it gracefully and gratefully with everybody there. It is nonsense and it's untrue, and I would expect you people to put people under oath now to say that any owner has barred access to the ocean to anybody coming there. It is absolute nonsense. We encourage it and we're happy to have it. I think you have a very good indication from the owners of property, from the inhabitants, who'd like to see an infrastructure spend that is done more responsibly. We've talked now about Ocean Road, about creating sidewalks there. There's an urgent need by the owners of properties for a hookup, for sewer and gas. There's an urgent need for all these, for a more, what should I say, a more reasoned expenditure of funds. And in the process, if you're going to start surveying things and roads, maybe the mandate should be a little larger, and that the surveyor be given instruction to investigate what the cost implication would be, what the spend would be for creating paving, safe access for emergency vehicles. You guys just, and ladies with respect, just don't seem to listen to what you're telling us. You're exchanging one problem area for another, compromising the safety of our area, and you just want to come with a, with respect, haphazard solution. My last point is that I now understand from you that you seem to have consulted certain people. You say the fire marshal was there, you say the police were there asking their opinion. At the last hearing, it was said that you have to have 25-foot clearance for parking. But none of these reports have been available to us to make an assessment, a realistic assessment of what you're proposing. So please take a step back, reconsider everything, spend the money wisely in the best interest of everybody. But I defy you to place on record under oath somebody who says they've been denied access to the ocean. Parking, convenient parking, is not synonymous anywhere in my understanding of the ordinance or reading of it. Convenient parking is not synonymous with access to the ocean. So thank you for your time, and please reconsider what you're doing.
Thank you. Dan, who's up next?
Next is Alicia Henry.
Alicia, please state your full name and address. Looks like you're muted right now. All right. We can try to go back to Alicia in a moment. Dan, who do we have in the meantime?
Next is Christine Morgan.
Hi, Christine. Please state your full name and address.
Christine Morgan, 44 Caliph. I just had one point that that I'd like to reiterate that I believe Martin brought up. I think in one of the previous town council meetings, somebody mentioned, I'm not sure if it was the town manager, that signage would go up eventually to show where it was safe to park in the spaces that you just approved. So and I think it was 25 feet from an intersection. I believe that that's I don't know if it's a state law or town law. Both of these areas that you're proposing be surveyed would they be considered intersections? They're at the end, where two roads intersect. So I'm just wondering, before you approve to spend money to have them surveyed with, I'm assuming, the intent of creating additional parking, is that even legal to have parking that close to an intersection? And I would just wonder what, if somebody could speak to that, that would give people more information before they make a decision on this. And that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. All right, Dan, who's up next?
Next is Nathaniel Merrill.
Nate, please state your full name and address.
Nate Merrill, 186 South Wheaton Road, South Kingstown, Rhode Island. Having public land surveyed at a right of way is a reasonable proposal and thing to do. How it gets done is up to you guys. Encroachment's a real issue at right of ways all over the state. You see already the result of ignoring setbacks, having people take or push their lawn and landscaping out towards the street that's not theirs. Is now you end up in a situation years down the road where, okay, now it's too narrow to do anything. So surveying what's public land is a reasonable thing to do. This is you did just listen to two immediate abutters to that survey, and understanding on both sides what is theirs and what's public, I think would benefit the clarity around the issue. Putting parking aside altogether, just what is public and private land. So how you guys do it, up to you, but I support the general concept.
Thank you, Nate. All right, Dan, who else do we have?
Next is Stephen Fulop.
Stephen, please state your full name and address.
Stephen Fulop, 84 Califf, the corner of Califf and Pilgrim. I spoke earlier, and one of the things I meant, well, let me take a step back and just say, Jesse and Susan specifically, I really do appreciate your comments earlier with regards to a measured approach. And Deb and Eva, I hope you could listen to kind of what we're saying collectively. The last time I spoke, I mentioned the fact that I felt as a resident, as many of the others do, that we're constantly under attack. And this only kind of reinforces that. The ink isn't even dry on the ordinance that was just voted on to add 40 or 50 additional spots to the area, which by your accounts will solve the problem down there. And now you're looking to put a parking lot at the end of the street that will drastically change my land or my property, bringing it all the way up to my house, creating safety issues, as somebody said earlier. I sent some of you over some videos, which we constantly deal with on a day in, day out basis. And, it's really a concern, to say the least. I do want to say that I do recognize that people do encroach on the right of ways. And everybody here, each one of you as well, have right of ways with regards to your property. And I would just ask, how would you feel if this was the conversation and you were constantly under attack? I could speak specifically to my property that I didn't put a blade of grass down there that was not approved by the Public Works Department there. Your Public Works Department advised me what type of bushes to put there, what they wanted there in order to properly maintain it. They told me, which cost me thousands of dollars. Your Public Works Department told me to put my driveway where it's located on that map that doesn't show, the one that Mr. Murray showed you earlier. They advised me that in order to do that, I had to do X, Y, Z to the driveway, which I did at a cost of additional $4,000. This was all correspondence with you guys. Now, whether that's an issue you want to change long-term, that's another conversation. But to widen the street there and turn it into a de facto parking lot when you've just solved the problem and you haven't even given that a chance to play out is really just unfair. It's wrong, it's unfair, and it's going to change the character of that neighborhood forever. Going back to each of your comments, when you guys did approve the 50 additional parking spots, I mean, Eva mentioned the fact that, all over the place, people want to come there and it's for taxpayers and they want access. So she voted yes, and we appreciate that. Water access is there all the time if you go there, and you guys solve that. Jesse mentioned the fact that he didn't want to do any structural changes. He said that verbatim. This is a major structural change. Even Patrick said in his comments when he voted on the 50 spots that he wants to take it slowly and carefully. And here we are proposing a widening of the street dramatically. Now, I know the pushback's going to be, hey, we're only surveying the lands. But the reality is that, Patrick doesn't hide what his motives are here. And I commend him for that. He's very upfront about the fact that I want to widen the right of way because that's what I want to do. And we appreciate the fact that you can do that. But it really is furthering the sentiment that there is just a constant attack on that community when you just solve the problem that you viewed with regards to parking 10 minutes ago. So I would just say, please refer this to a committee that can actually look through this process, be measured on it, take your time to see if the 50 spots that you just proposed there solves the problem for all the surfers and all the waterfront access. And I think you'll find that widening is just not necessary there to put other people at risk, safety impair, and really have a negative impact on the entire community down there. So thank you, and please vote no.
Thank you. Dan, who do we have next?
Next, we have Paula Darren.
All right, we'll try Paula again. Paula, please state your full name and address. Okay. Doesn't look like that's going to work.
Nope.
All right, let's try Sydney.
Sydney it is.
Hello, I am Sydney Ghazi, 35 Caliph Ave. Once again, I'm going to say to you that I completely disapprove and oppose the survey at the taxpayer's expense now to widen. I could not agree more with the previous speakers. It almost feels like overkill at this point. And so what I would like to do is ask other residents and other taxpayers and homeowners of Narragansett in other neighborhoods to please be aware, pay attention, see what's going on here. This is not just parking for surfers now it's becoming a vendetta or an overkill at some point. You just approved something that is causing serious concern to a neighborhood, and now you want to continue going for it. As a one resident to another, I would ask other neighbors in other neighborhoods all through Narragansett to please pay attention and listen to what's happening. Please reach out, because this is not okay, and this is not the direction that Narragansett wants to go in. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, who's up next?
Next is Avon Durfee.
All right, Avon, please state your full name and address.
Avon Durfee, 221 Sunnybrook Farm Road. I would like to thank the council for passing the first reading of motion 18. However, this motion is in reference to the town hiring a surveyor to execute a survey to analyze these areas, and it's not about adding parking like motion 18 was. The residents might be a little confused because they keep talking about how school buses cannot get through and how these roads are too small and unsafe. A survey of the area may allow the council to make a more educated decision to help all the surfers and all the residents to make the neighborhood safer. I've heard many residents talk about the many walkers and bikers of the area and how unsafe the roads are for them. A survey could help improve the neighborhood by letting a professional analyze the roads and the properties in that neighborhood to look into solutions that will benefit all when it comes to adding the parking that is being approved. There were many residents who continuously asked the council to release their research behind all their decisions. This survey will be part of that research to inform the council, to inform the new Coastal Access Improvement Committee, and to inform all Narragansett residents about the future solutions for that area. The motion that adds parking is being passed by the town council through motion 18. This motion here will just let the town council explore a safe way to add the inevitable parking. I think this motion will get the ball rolling and will provide more information to everyone. Knowledge is power. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity, just for the rest of the speakers from the public, and maybe for myself, so I'm clear. This motion is only to survey the end of Pilgrim and Conant at the right of way, correct? Not the whole road going from ocean to the water. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yeah, it's just those two.
Just at the end.
Yeah, the eastern end of Pilgrim and Conant.
It's not right, but so it's not the whole road. It's not
correct. Okay. Correct.
All right, got it. All right, Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Conrad.
Conrad, please state your full name and address.
This is Conrad Furla. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
437 Road, South Kingstown. I support the survey, and it's not so much for adding parking. It's to find out exactly how much property is public, have it stated how much is public, because this survey has actually been done by CRMC in 1990. So that's on record, but also to solve some of the flooding of the path and once we survey and take a good look of what is actual public property at the very end, let's maintain it so it's not flooded, cover it in mud. We don't need to do something invasive where it's, a lot at the end. It just needs to be declared public and surveyed by the town so that future generations, this doesn't come up again and it's not debatable. And like I said, there is encroachment by private property owners on public land. And by law, even if you maintain public land, it still never becomes yours, and nor will you ever be taxed on. Those are the laws and the rules. We don't want to make it a parking lot or something gross. We just want to make something that's nice, pretty, adds aesthetic to the neighborhood, and is not flooded with mud. And I think the survey will help that. So thank you guys. I appreciate everything you're doing. And this is all about making this place nicer.
Thank you. All right, looks like that's it. Okay, why don't we go around the council again for closing comments. Susan, do you want to start?
So the survey is only going to be for the end of the roads right away. It's not going to help us determine the additional parking on the streets that we just voted on. So for those reasons, I don't think it's necessary at this time. I'm comfortable with the ordinance that we passed tonight, and I would say that I'm not going to support the survey.
Okay, Eva.
So I actually feel that a survey would be a good thing to do at this point. There is a lot of encroachment. It is protecting our rights of way. And again, it's not to decide that we're putting parking in, it's just a survey and it's an assessment. So I would support it.
All right, Deb.
Listening to what you said earlier, Jesse, what I was thinking was that it would be a good project for the Coastal Access Group. And this is a survey. It's not parking. It's not a parking lot. It's none of those things. But I think that you're right, Jesse, that this is what we decided to put this committee together for. And I think we should do it that way.
All right, Patrick.
Well, it's criminal that these access points have not been maintained properly by previous town councils. Okay, we have an opportunity to maintain these for the next generations of people who want access. The last council enforced parking down there and didn't want anybody down. By not setting clear lines of engagement, you're setting up a council who are more in line with not providing access. This is just a simple survey. The main topic on both sides is safety, safety, safety. A survey will give you square footage. They'll provide solutions for safety. So, I know it might be uncomfortable for some of the neighbors that have a survey on adjoining property, but, they talk about how much it's going to impact the environment to add 2 parking spaces. For one thing, you can't provide a parking space that close to a wetland or an ocean or a tributary unless it has a pervious surface. So it'd either be crushed stone or asphalt, which is pervious. Okay, so people are squawking about these environmental impacts, but it's okay to build a 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 square foot house in the same area. So this council has a duty to maintain these access points. Generation. This is a survey. This isn't a bulldozer. This isn't a fence. It's just a survey to get it right. And again, you kick it off to a committee, it's gonna come back to us anyways for an up and down vote. They can't vote for a survey. We're just giving them some information. You wanna have a coastal committee? Let's give them some information. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So in the recommendation of the motion, it says to hire a surveyor to execute a survey that of the town's right-of-ways that terminate at the east end of both Connet and Pilgrim Avenues for the purpose of adding safe parking options for public ocean access. So it does show you the intent there of the survey, and we'd be voting to approve that intent, not just the survey.
Well, then amend it.
So I'm just saying, because we're talking about it just being a survey, but the motion isn't just a survey.
Okay, let's amend it.
And when you look at the aerials, what was cropped out of those aerials is the rest of the neighborhood. So when we see how far the encroachment goes into the street, it's like that through the whole neighborhood. So do we want to target these two small blocks when it's happening throughout the whole street? We're adding parking to the other parts of the street. If you're talking about surveying for safety, wouldn't you want to look at where cars are going to park and if it makes sense to survey there? So for instance, last meeting, there was a resident who said, if a car pulls off two tires off the road, she thinks that they're going to be on her property because the way that the street is skewed along the right of way, someone would technically be on her property. If that's the case, then I feel like a survey would be more valuable there because people are going to be parking there. Which is exactly why I think that this should go to the committee that was formed for this specific reason. And the reason why I wanted to propose that is because this council isn't going to exist forever, not even close to forever. When we move on, you're going to have a new council that might have different philosophies. And the more we push to get these things done so quickly, the more likely, in my opinion, they are to eventually get reversed. So I would like to see the committee take these on so that it's a body that lives on and continues to do this work when this council with this philosophy is gone. And I just think that this neighborhood and other areas of town are the things that this committee is going to look at. This isn't an excuse to kick it down the road. We're going to have members on this committee in 2 weeks. They're going to be appointed in 2 weeks. And they'll be ready to work, this spring and this summer. And I don't see any rush to get that area surveyed.
Okay, so what you're telling me is, once it gets vetted by this coastal committee and comes back to this town council, everybody will support this agenda item.
I'm saying that if that committee decides to look at that area, again, this committee didn't form just for the avenues. It's for the whole town. If they decide to look at that area and they recommend that we survey that neighborhood and they give reasons why and they have a plan and they say, this is potentially what this neighborhood could be, taking into account the residents and the visitors, and it's convincing, then maybe we vote to approve it. But
listen, the reason I'm here and not at the other end of the street, because this is the beachhead. This is ground zero. This is the access point. Clearly, at Conant, there's a stairway going down to the water. You were standing, we went down there and looked at it. It's been there for years.
I know.
There's clear intent that this town has these access points previously. Okay, and there's clear encroachment that is going into other properties.
You're right, it is. It's clear. It's so clear that we could see it within a couple feet of accuracy probably without even having a survey. That's how clear it is. It will be nice to have a survey on record. But for me, as much as I support, access to that area, And as much as I disagree with a lot of the speakers earlier, just philosophically, you still have to have some balance, I think, in the way that we work. And we don't have to push. I don't feel like I need to push on this just because we have the numbers possibly to do it. So I want to show some, some balance here in the way that we act. But that's just me. But I understand your passion and your reasoning. I do.
Well, it will be something we can hand the committee, like I said before, but whatever. Let's take the vote and get everybody on record. That's fine.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno now.
Eva?
Eva Jasinski, and my point was going to also be to provide a committee. And I know it's going to be in a few weeks, you're going to put it together, but it would be a good starting point and get the ball rolling. So I.
All right, Deb?
Well, I'm not even sure a survey could be done in 2 weeks, but my vote is no.
All right, Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, no. Motion fails. 2-3. All right, we have number 21, which is a motion to approve a resolution asking the Rhode Island General Assembly to approve Senate Bill 172 and House Bill 5259, enabling municipal public trust dedication. And is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Susan Cicilline Bonanno.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
All right, seconded by Eva. This comes from Councilor Kopak. You're on mute, Deb.
This actually comes from the Narragansett Land Conservancy Trust. We met to request that we would that we would ask the town council to unanimously approve a recommendation. To approve a resolution asking the Rhode Island General Assembly to approve Senate Bills 172 and House Bill 5259. Those bills are identical. And I just want to read a little piece of the bill. Hold on one second. Just so you understand what it's about. It's called the Municipal Public Trust Dedication. And what it states in the first paragraph is the purpose of this chapter is to provide a voluntary mechanism for cities and towns to dedicate a park, conservation, or other land that it owns as public trust land in perpetuity in order to assure public access to the land for outdoor recreation and to assure that the land is not converted to another use and remains predominantly undeveloped and provides open space benefits. People rely on their parks and other public open spaces as stable, reliable places of comfort, rest, and renewal in their lives. People make decisions on where to reside and work based on proximity to these places. They expect that these places will always be there for them. This expectation is supported by the Rhode Island Constitution, Article 1, Section 17. And I just, we had a resolution, we passed a resolution at our last meeting for the town of Narragansett, and this is our support for a change to the state law to ensure this across the state. And I think we should support it.
All right, thank you, Deb. Any questions from the council or comments? Susan?
No, I'm all set. Excellent. Excellent.
Eva?
Nope, great.
All right. Deb, just real quick.
Oh yeah, well, what about me? Whoa,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Put me on the pay no mind list.
All right, Patrick Murray. Yes.
Well, I think this is brilliant, but I think we need to run it through a committee. Okay, I think we need to form a new committee.
Like the land trust?
Get it? Never heard of it.
Yeah, we have the land trust.
I know. I'm okay with it. For God's
You're just
sake.
upset because I didn't use any military or naval terms.
Yeah.
All right. Deb, is this does this mirror the intent of the two resolutions from last meeting?
Yes, it absolutely does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. This was actually, I think, in the works, if I'm not mistaken. Tom Rogers was helping work on this at the state level and prompted his research and the creation of the resolutions.
Great. Thanks for putting it on. All right, doesn't look like there's any public comment. So why don't we go ahead and vote? Start with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva,
Eva Trzynski, aye.
Deb,
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Q, I, motion approved 5-0. 22 was pulled. So we have a motion to retire to executive session. Town council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 4, 42. It's cut off on my iPad. 42, 46, 5, A.
40, A2.
Okay. A2. Gotcha.
Get it right. We don't need any more open meeting requests here.
I know, my iPad.
Violations. Get it right. Get it right, for God's sakes.
Litigation in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 42, 46, 5A2.
Right.
GP Pure Liquor Retail LLC versus Narragansett WC 2016-0067, WC 2017-0036, WC 2018-0031. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Susan
Right.
Cicilline Bonanno.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Eva. All in favor, starting with Susan.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva,
Eva Trzynski, aye.
Deb,
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Q, I. Motion approved 5-0. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay,
Smoke 'em
so
if you
just,
got 'em. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Thank you.
council members will switch to the other login that I provided for executive session.
I can't do that because Terry, I can't because I'm on my phone because my computer's down.
Okay,
You need the link,
So can I
Susan?
just stay on the phone or no?
no, so there's a separate
Can you?
link.
Oh, all
session.
right. I'll just go on my phone and do it on my phone. All right.
And then the council will be returning to this open session, same login information as was originally posted for this public session.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I don't think I'm in the right spot. Dan?
Sorry, I'm back.
I don't know how to get to the other place.
You should be able to just exit this meeting and then open up your email on your phone.
Oh, all right, I'll try it. It
And,
says it. All right, let me see.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, Dan. Oh boy, is this cumbersome.
Isn't it?
Oh my God.
There. Just hanging out.
Yeah, I got to keep the meeting open, otherwise it'll close.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is a pain. Dan, you're all set for, oh no, Dan, I have to make you co-host again, right? A host. I'll make you the host.
The way you did, yep.
So you can let people in and do that thing.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
It was so funny. I went to the calendar and the meeting's not, well, because it's the second now. Or actually, it wasn't on the first anymore. So I couldn't click on that. So I had to go to my email.
Thank you.
It wasn't on the calendar anymore. I'm like,
Oh,
oh.
on the website. Yeah.
Yep.
Do we need a Zoom committee?
I'm not on it.
We may have to get
Hi, we're still live, just so everyone knows.
That took more work than it should have.
All right, Dan, are we, it's live on YouTube? I could just.
It
go
is.
ahead.
We're still live on everything. Yep.
Oh.
Okay.
There's people there.
All right. So,
Yep.
we have.
So Susan is not back on, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so we lost, Susan lost her connection. She couldn't log into the executive session, so we have 2 votes to disclose. And Susan was not present for those votes, Councilor Bonanno. The first disclosure from executive session is a vote to approve a settlement with GP Peer Realty in accordance with the terms described by Assistant Solicitor Andy Berg. That was approved 4-0. Second was a vote to seal the minutes of executive session, approved 4-0 as well. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Guess I'll start with Eva.
Yep. Eva Jasinski, aye.
Deb?
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick?
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Nice job.